Chapter 319. Looking at Dong Huangli, who was eating fries, Qinya said tenderly, "Ali, you can't eat too much." And Ali understands. Qin Yutong said quietly to her big sister, "Big sister, it seems like this Qin Xuanzong is preparing to pursue you. Alright, don't say any more. If your brother-in-law were to find out, he would definitely get mad." Qinya knew Yi Hua's personality very well. Although this Qin Xuanzong was disrespectful towards her, they were still friends. Even if she didn't give him face, she still had to give him face. "But I have already sent it over," Qin Yutong said pitifully as she waved her phone. Dong Huangli said exaggeratedly, "Daddy is going to get mad." Qinya pinched onto her little sister's ear, "You traitor. Big sister, be gentle, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts." Just as they were fooling around, two people walked in from the entrance. One was a robust middle-aged man, and the other was a man with a graceful bearing. The middle-aged man had a square face and sideburns. There was a scar on his cheek that looked very sinister, like a wriggling centipede. It was precisely because of this appearance that people naturally feared him. The man at the side was much more delicate and handsome. He was waving a folding fan in his hand and dressed up like an ancient romantic scholar, attracting the attention of the unmarried women present. When everyone saw these two people, they went into a daze for a moment. Some people didn't recognize them, but some people recognized them. Those who recognized them cupped their hands and shouted, "Chu family head." At this moment, some people started discussing. "Hey, is there a need to be so respectful towards a family head? Lower your voice. This is one of the 5 aristocratic families, Chu family." "Ah, Chu family." Everyone hurriedly cupped their hands and greeted respectfully. Even Xiao Yi and Bai Cixin cupped their hands and greeted respectfully. After all, this was etiquette. Of course, there were still some people who didn't do it. For example, Gui Qingren was sitting at the side eating sunflower seeds and reading novels. Qin Yutong was even more so. What does an aristocratic family count as? Even big shots have to follow brother-in-law's orders. Bai Qi bowed his body and took a look at Dongfang Yuan who was at the side, then shouted out, "Dongfang Yuan, do you still want me to teach you how to bend your waist?" In actuality, Dongfang Yuan had already learned from others, but Bai Qi was just nitpicking and intentionally making things difficult for Dongfang Yuan. Bai Qi just wanted to vent his anger, who asked her to make him lose face just now. As the two of them walked over, all the clan leaders tried to curry favor with them. It wasn't easy for an aristocratic family to appear here, so they had to have a good chat with them. "Father, I'll go eat something." As Chu He's eldest son, Chu Bai enjoyed a halo that others couldn't obtain. Did Chu He not know his son's intentions? Since he was here today to hunt for beauties, he just let him be. Perhaps others didn't know, but Chu Bai had a fetish. Others liked virgins, but he liked married women. Other than the main wife, all the concubines were like this. However, Chu Bai didn't snatch it by force. Instead, he stepped in and slowly obtained it. He enjoyed that thrill very much. You don't understand the world of powerful people. They seek excitement. Chu Bai waved his fan and walked around the hall, sweeping his gaze across the group of women. He didn't care about the average ones anymore. Recently, he had been infatuated with the high and mighty women, and conquering them gave him a sense of accomplishment. As for those little girls, he was really not interested. How could he be as interesting as someone else's wife? Pervert. "Mommy Qing, Ali can't eat anymore." Dong Huangli rubbed onto her plump belly and said pitifully. She seemed to be a bit unwilling to not finish eating all of these. Qinya took out a napkin and carefully wiped Dong Huangli's mouth. "If you can't eat anymore, then don't eat anymore." But Ali recently learned a poem. Dong Huangli began to show off. Qinya and Qin Yutong were very curious as well. "What poem?" "Hoeing rice at noon," Dong Huangli said. What was the next sentence? I forgot. This is so embarrassing. Ali has lost face for daddy. I originally wanted to flaunt my culture a bit. Seeing how Ali was stuttering, Qinya and Qin Yutong couldn't help but laugh. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth. "Next time I will come and show off after I finish reciting the poem." Sweat drips into the soil. Who would know that every grain of rice on the plate is bitter? Chu Bai could be seen lightly waving his fan and speaking leisurely. That confident smile of his seemed to be saying that what I said was correct, right? Dong Huangli became unhappy. "I was supposed to show off to you. Uncle is so amazing, you actually know how to recite children's poems." Dong Huangli shouted out. She wanted to let everyone know that this uncle of hers was reciting children's songs at home. Chu Bai paused for a moment. What a sharp little kid, so eloquent. However, my target is not you but the two women beside you. In order to prove that he was talented, Chu Bai coughed lightly and said in a low voice, "Others laugh at me for being too crazy." Dong Huangli was very unhappy. "Since you are destroying Ali's stage, Ali is going to destroy your stage." Dong Huangli could be heard saying with a childish voice, "I'm laughing at him for saying that he is right." Oh. Chu Bai almost choked on his own saliva. Qingya and Qing Yutong laughed so much that they were about to cramp up. When did Ali become so mischievous? Didn't he learn it from his father? Everyone in the surroundings heard what Dong Huangli said. Originally, I thought that Dong Huangli is just a bronze king, but it turns out that Dong Huangli is actually a king. However, he didn't dare to laugh out loud. After all, he was the son of an aristocratic family. However, he still couldn't help but cover his mouth and laugh lightly. Chu Bai felt very awkward, but he still had to maintain his poise. He could not lose face in front of a beauty, or else this first impression would be gone. However, if he wanted to woo these two women, he had to start with the children. "Little friend, you are very awesome." Chu Bai smiled and praised. Dong Huangli snorted, "Of course, Ali is very formidable." "Ali, do you want to play with uncle again?" Don't think that Chu Bai was really playing with the children. This was a form of interaction. He wanted the two beauties to lower their guard so that he could take advantage of the situation. Dong Huangli was Yi Hua's child. When had she ever been a coward? "Alright, Ali will let uncle start the conversation." Dong Huangli braced herself and said. Even if Qingya wanted to persuade the child, it was already too late. Qingya could only watch the child perform. Qing Yutong immediately captured the moment when Ali was acting cool. The crowd was attracted over as well. A battle between a junior king and a descendant of an aristocratic family. This was going to be interesting. Chu Bai thought for a moment. He couldn't make it too difficult, or others would think that he was bullying a child. Whoosh. Chu Bai opened his folding fan and said in a graceful manner, "Everyone has died since ancient times." Everyone was in an uproar. This was too difficult for children. The moonlight in front of the bed was more or less the same. Qingya also felt that this was a difficult situation. Dong Huangli was very puzzled. Since ancient times, who doesn't have sh*t? How could there be such a poem? How strange. However, if I am unable to continue the conversation while losing face for Ali is a small matter, losing face for my daddy is a big matter. When everyone saw that Ali was frowning and seemed to be thinking, they couldn't help but become worried. This Chu Bai is too shameless, he is still acting so complacent over there. Dong Huangli's big eyes could be seen shining as she stood on the chair and shouted out, "Thou shalt not use paper when shitting." At this moment, everyone became quiet as they looked dumbfoundedly at the little fellow who was standing on the chair. The little fellow had heard the word *t, and then improvised a line. It was right and it rhymed. Chapter 320. They wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. Qingya and Qing Yutong also didn't expect that Ali would actually be able to say such a sentence, and after being dumbfounded for a moment, they couldn't help but laugh tenderly. It was clear that Ali didn't know, but she still answered based on what she knew. Moreover, she even scolded Zhao. It seemed that Ali was quite vengeful. Chu Bai felt as if he had eaten *t. He had actually been looked down upon by a little kid. Although his answer was wrong, it was still another kind of sublimation. He had to say it, and he had to say it in another way. "Little fellow, this young master's talent is not something you can understand." Looking at the strange look on Chu Bai's face, the crowd could not help but sigh as they felt that the son of an aristocratic family had not given up and was going to continue fighting with a kid. If he won, he would be bullying the weak. If he lost, he wouldn't even be able to win against a child. He wouldn't be able to please either side and would be digging his own grave. Right now, Chu Bai was already in a difficult position, unless Dong Huangli took the initiative to step aside. However, that was impossible. After a while, Chu Bai's eyes lit up. He waved his folding fan and slowly said, "If you don't have toilet paper." Damn. This son of an aristocratic family really dared to come. Everyone couldn't help but look at the little fellow. If it was a match, it would definitely be the highlight of today's auction. The little fellow had used a poem to slap the son of an aristocratic family. It was too interesting. Dong Huangli raised her head and looked towards Mama Qing and Aunt Qing. Qingya and Qing Yutong had a helpless look on their faces. It wasn't that Mommy Qing didn't want to help Ali, it was that Mommy Qing didn't know how to answer Ali's question. Seeing that even Dong Huangli had asked for help, everyone felt that even though they were defeated, it was still an honor. As for Chu Bai, he was a little smug. How was it possible for a little brat to defeat him? From the looks of it, Dong Huangli had indeed angered Chu Bai, causing Chu Bai to forget about his original mission. His mission wasn't to spar with a child, but rather to strike up a conversation with a beauty. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth and looked at Chu Bai unwillingly. Calm down, don't be reckless, Ali will definitely think of something. After a while, everyone felt that Ali couldn't match it, so Xiao Xiao didn't say anything. Little guy, what else can you say? Chu Bai smiled. Qingya and Qing Yutong inwardly scolded him for being shameless. Bullying little children, Ali quickly beat him up. Dong Huangli could be seen snorting coldly, then said, "If that's the case, Ali, you will have to use your fingers." At this moment the air froze. If you don't have toilet paper, you can only use your fingers. Ah! The whole audience immediately burst into laughter. This little guy was amazing, too amazing. They matched each other neatly, rhyming perfectly, and the ending notes connected pleasantly. Ah! Little prodigy. She even reached the point of scolding people without using dirty words. Qing Yutong, who was filming the video for Ali, was a bit stupefied, and Qingya was even more so. This little fellow is truly becoming more and more fond of Ali. Qingya and Qing Yutong could be seen giving Ali a sweet and fragrant kiss, causing everyone to feel extremely envious, and they all wished that they could become little fellows. Dong Huangli even raised up her chin. Quickly come and praise Ali, Ali will accept your praise. However, Chu Bai put away his folding fan. He was so angry that his lips were trembling. He couldn't tolerate it. He had been sliced by a little kid. He had to think of a way to regain his face. Use his status to pressure me? Too low level? No. He still had to use culture to crush the other party and let the children know that he, the son of an aristocratic family, was not to be trifled with. Little friend, you're amazing. Why don't we try something a little more difficult? When Chu Bai said this, everyone felt that he was shameless. He wanted to increase the difficulty. The previous one was already difficult enough, but the little fellow had thought for so long. Qingya's expression sunk. I will let Ali play with Ali, but if others bully Ali like this, I, as his mother, will not allow it. Qing Yutong is the same as well. If you want to bully my Ali, you have to ask me, Aunt Qing. System, give me a big sword. As the child of a supreme overlord, Dong Huangli's bloodline carried the gene of never admitting defeat. Towards other people's challenges, Dong Huangli would not cower, and would only bravely advance forward. Mommy Qing, Aunt Qing, let Ali do it. Dong Huangli put on the appearance of a little adult, which made people feel that Dong Huangli was very cute. Qingya and Qing Yutong took a look at each other. After thinking for a bit, they decided to let Ali give it a try. Who knows, Ali might even be able to give them a pleasant surprise. If this man dares to take a yard after taking an inch, Qingya will definitely not let him off. Dong Huangli could be seen saying to Chu Bai, "Uncle, this kind of competition is too dull, do you want to give it a little something?" Something? Qingya and Qing Yutong went into a daze. When did Ali learn such words? Needless to say, it must be her father who taught her. Qingya decided that this time when she goes back, she will have a good talk with Yi Hua. You don't have to interfere with the education of Ali anymore. Look at what you have taught Ali to become, to actually dare to make a bet with other people. Ali is only 3 years old. When he grows up, wouldn't he be gambling with other people? The surrounding people were clearly stunned by Dong Huangli's attitude. This little fellow is awesome. This was the first time he had seen a child angrily rebuking the son of an aristocratic family. Chu Bai was very confident. With a swoosh, he opened his folding fan again. Ali, whatever you want to bet, Uncle will bet with you. Alright, if Uncle loses, you have to recognize Ali as your big brother. Ali will teach you how to comb your hair in the middle. Puff. Everyone present burst into laughter. If you recognize me as your big brother, I'll teach you how to comb your hair in the middle. This kid also watches TikTok? Qingya let out a sigh. After this incident, I will definitely uninstall all of my TikTok from my phone. I can't let Ali watch TikTok anymore. However, this time Qingya had wrongly blamed TikTok. Ali had learned TikTok from Lai Gu. Alright. If Ali loses, you have to be my little brother. Chu Bai wasn't greedy. It didn't matter if he accepted a child as his underling. The important thing was that he would be able to come into contact with two great beauties. Alright. It's a deal, pinky promise. Dong Huangli stretched out her pinky. Chu Bai really walked over and hooked it. He even stamped it. Chu Bai. What are you doing? He suddenly walked out from the crowd. Beside him was actually the Yi family's patriarch, Yi Xiao. He had just walked over to discuss some matters with Yi Xiao, but when he came out, he saw everyone crowding over here. Sure enough, it was his son again. Chu Bai looked at his father without a hint of fear. Father, you don't have to worry about this. What's there that I don't need to care about? Chuhi was confused. A family head beside him recounted the situation. Chuhi felt embarrassed when he heard that. His eldest son liked to make himself look like a scholar. Apart from that hobby, he always claimed to be a cultured person and was different from them. You don't even have half a cart full of knowledge with the amount of knowledge in your stomach. Do you think I don't know? The main target is even a little kid, and if I lose, I still have to recognize the little kid as my big brother? You may be shameless, but your father is. Old Chu, this little bai is just playing around. Yi Xiao said with a smile. Play? If that's the case, you are looking down on Dong Huangli too much. Uncle, if your son loses, he wants to recognize me as his big brother, are you okay with that? If Dong Huangli doesn't even have this bit of foresight, then she would be letting down the power of her bloodline. When Dong Huangli said that, everyone froze. That's the boss of an aristocratic family. A person who can decide a person's life and death with just a single sentence. Chapter 321. I didn't expect that Ali would have such a talent. From the looks of it, in the future the three of us can form a team and go out to do big things. As an aristocratic family, if we make things difficult for a child in this kind of situation, we will lose a lot of face. Little friend, that uncle is just joking with you, don't take it seriously. Chuhi squeezed out a trace of a smile. Bastard son, coming to trouble me at this time. I took it seriously. Dong Huangli said while pouting her mouth. I took it seriously too. Chu Bai responded. I am a talented young master, how can I possibly lose? Yi Xiao laughed lightly. Old Chu, your son's bearing is extraordinary. Chuhi wished that he could beat this fellow to death. If I had known that this would happen, I wouldn't have brought him out today. Chu Bai, you're on your own. After finished speaking, Chuhi left angrily. Yi Xiao took a look at Qinya, then turned around and left. Not every man likes beautiful women, perhaps they just admire beautiful women? Seeing that his father had left, Chu Bai laughed lightly. All right, no one can disturb us now. Uncle, your father is angry, can you make the decision? Dong Huangli asked curiously. This question of yours is so awkward. Chu Bai knocked on his chest with his folding fan, then said with his mouth slightly raised, Uncle's life is my own decision. Then Ali can be at ease. Everyone became speechless. Why do we have a strange feeling? This little fellow has already dug a pit, and the son of an aristocratic family is currently digging a pit. These people guessed correctly, Dong Huangli has indeed dug a pit. As the representative of the buried love family, Dong Huangli has already started taking in subordinates. And when Yi Hua was Ali's age, who knows where he was playing with mud. The student has surpassed the master. Using Dong Huangli's words, Daddy has so many subordinates, Ali has to make preparations as well. Dong Huangli could be seen smiling confidently. This smile made Chu Bai feel quite pressured. Where does this little brat's confidence come from? Dong Huangli is not fighting alone. Because there is a think tank behind her. Dong Huangli shouted out silently in her heart. Uncle Wei, are you ready? Ali is about to compete. If I lose, I will have to become someone else's subordinate. Far away in a rented house in Long'an City, Wei Chang received a message from Little Honorable. Little Honorable, Uncle Wei is ready. The small living room was filled with people. Lai Gu brought along Yiran, Wen Xia, and Bai Xiaojun, a family of 4. Absolute Heaven had rushed over from Zijin University. There was also Death Mage and Sun Fong. The Green and Red brothers died, and of course, Zishan also died. Of course, there was also Wei Chang and Tang Wei, only Yi Zizi wasn't present. The pitiful Yi Zizi didn't have anyone to play with her anymore. All of these people were helping Dong Huangli to answer the question. Thus, Chu Bai didn't know what kind of group he was facing at all. In actuality, Dong Huangli was the one who said the first sentence. However, from the moment when she said that everyone would die, it wasn't the one who said it. This matter was too difficult for Dong Huangli, who was not even 3 years old yet. At that time, Dong Huangli was also very anxious, and she was not allowed to ask for help at the scene. Thus, Dong Huangli, who was very anxious, started asking for help in her heart, hoping that the heavens would take pity on Dong Huangli and quickly let Dong Huangli think of something. Although the heavens didn't appear, Wei Chang was able to sense Dong Huangli's cry for help. This was also one of Wei Chang's little thoughts. He was worried that Little Honorable would get hurt, so he specially created a secret technique. As long as Little Honorable asks for help in her heart, he would be able to receive it and immediately go and rescue her. Don't look at how young my daughter is. If she were to really get into a fight, that bunch of deviant flames of hers would be able to make the enemy blush with shame. Wei Chang, who was just about to sleep, sensed it and hurriedly asked about the situation. Immediately he let out a breath of relief. However, the question that came next caused Wei Chang to have a headache. If it was an ordinary poem, Tang Wei, who was a university student beside him, would definitely know about it. However, Little Honorable's request was not ordinary, and this caused Tang Wei to be stumped. Wei Chang had no choice but to immediately gather everyone. Furthermore, it could be described as extremely urgent. At this time, everyone was more or less preparing to sleep. Even Death Mage was wearing a nightgown. Lai Gu and Absolute Heaven were also wearing a nightcap, as expected of the saying, strength comes from having more people. The first person was Lai Gu's wife, Yi Ran, and the second person was the previous Cloud Sect master, Sun Fang. This was also the reason why Dong Huangli had to think for a very long time when she was answering the question, because she was waiting for the answer. Right now, everyone's brows were tightly wrinkled as they prepared to answer the next question. The foolish Chu Bai still didn't know that the little fellow on the other side was secretly cheating, and that there was even a world-destroying team helping him from behind. Don't look down on Dong Huangli, you will never know just how powerful the little fellow's background is. Chu Bai's brows were solemn. This time I won't go easy on Dong Huangli. Opening up his folding fan, Chu Bai said with a smile, what is there to be happy when we part? Everyone was shouting out that Dong Huangli was shameless. I can't even follow up with this kind of poem, and I still have to count on a little kid? Chu He, who was standing not far away, shook his head. This is truly throwing away Chu family's face, to actually be so serious towards a little kid. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong had unhappy expressions on their faces as well. This is what a scumbag is. Dong Huangli muttered to herself, seemingly to be pondering, but in actuality she was telling Wei Chang the question. After receiving Little Honorable's question, Wei Chang stood up and shouted out towards everyone, what is there to be happy when we part? Next sentence. It has to be different from the rest. Lai Gu rubbed onto his temples with both of his hands, feeling that his IQ was not online. Zhu Tian had a calm expression on his face, but his eyes were filled with confusion. Recently, Zhu Tian had started working at Zijin University as a hypnosis professor. Meanwhile, Zhu Tian himself was also studying some culture, and recently he had been memorizing 300 nursery rhymes. He had yet to come into contact with such a profound poem. Green and Red Brothers? Spring Sleep Without Knowing Dawn is still able to do it twice, but the rest of its IQ is not enough. Death Mage? It is still able to do some fishing and gambling. A large group of men who are capable of destroying the world can only rely on his wives. After all, Yi Hua's subordinates' culture is not enough, and these women's knowledge is still not enough. Sun Fang, do you have an answer? Wei Chang asked hurriedly. Just now, Sun Fang had answered one question, and Little Honorable was extremely satisfied. Sun Fang wrinkled her brows as her brain spun frantically. How can I be different from everyone else? The three celebrities were also thinking anxiously. After waiting for 1 minute, there was still no answer. This caused Wei Chang to become anxious. At the scene, Chu Bai revealed out a confident smile as he waved his folding fan and said, Ali, after thinking for so long, do you have an answer? Dong Huangli pressed onto her lips and snorted, don't look down on Ali, wait a moment. Uncle Wei, hurry up, Ali is going to lose. If I lose, I will lose Daddy's face, Daddy will fly into a rage. Wei Chang's head was about to explode. If his honor were to find out about this matter, even Little Honorable would not be able to protect his honor. If his honor were to really fly into a rage, everyone would definitely be scolded. I got it. Tang Wei's beautiful eyes shone. Wei Chang became happy. Tang Wei smiled faintly, what is there to be happy when we part? I know Pegasus Meteor Fist. Chapter 322. Very quickly, Dong Huangli received Wei Chang's answer. Cheating little king. Little Ali, it's been 2 minutes. If you still can't answer, it'll be your loss. Chu Bai felt carefree and relaxed. He had finally regained his face. This youth had been immersed in poetry for dozens of years. From children's songs to poetry, he was proficient in everything. Reading makes me grow up, reading makes me happy, no one can stop this young master's love for knowledge. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong were also very worried. I really want to blast that narcissist into smithereens for bullying my elite. Dong Huangli pursed her small mouth, then clenched her small fists and made a boxing pose. I know Pegasus Meteor Fist. Chu Bai was startled and muttered a few words in his mouth, and his expression immediately sunk. The audience also exclaimed in surprise. Although it wasn't completely correct, it was still another way of saying it. It seemed normal for children who were only a few years old. Which child didn't watch cartoons? Dong Huangli enjoyed this moment very much. Uncle Wei is truly the best. Qingya and Qing Yutong let out a sigh of relief. Qingya and Qing Yutong both heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Bai furrowed his brows. He couldn't recite poems anymore. He had to increase the difficulty. If I say you can do it, then you can do it. Chu Bai said in a deep voice, using his ultimate move. Everyone had a look of disdain on their faces. To actually play a couplet, shameless to a whole new realm. Meanwhile, Dong Huangli had a confused look on her face. This doesn't seem to be a poem. This bad uncle is bullying a child, shameless. Qingya also said casually, shameless. Qing Yutong directly said to Chu Bai, too shameless. Chu Bai waved his folding fan and said, in poetry, there is no distinction between big and small, only between the depth of one's learning. Being shameless to a certain level was indeed invincible. At this moment, Wei Chang received the question and told everyone about it. After everyone heard it, they were all silent. This was very difficult. Lai Gu silently turned around, seemingly telling everyone, don't ask me about this, I'm good at explaining all kinds of positions on the bed. Absolute Heaven pulled down his nightcap. He couldn't even answer a poem, let alone this couplet. His brain had been defeated. The Green and Red brothers felt ashamed that they couldn't help Ali at all. Wei Chang could only place his hopes on the ladies. After all, the men were responsible for destroying the world while the women were responsible for washing and cooking. Zishan could be seen sitting quietly at the side. She didn't seem to be very sociable and she didn't say anything either. Just that, Yi Hua felt that this group of people was very strange. They are obviously so strong, yet they are actually living quietly, especially that person called Lai Gu and Zhu Tian. Wearing a nightgown, how could he possibly look like an expert? And that Zhu Tian is still wearing a nightcap and there seems to be an eye patch in his pocket, my god. This was simply a group of devils with Chinibu syndrome. Yi Hong quietly approached Zishan and asked softly, Zishan, do you have an answer? After Zishan heard that, she let out a sigh of relief. Zishan was a deity who had lived for 1,000 years, and she had also learned some zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. He nodded slowly. Yi Hong was delighted. If you say no, then I won't. Even if I can, I won't. Everyone looked towards Zishan in unison. As expected of a deity, she did it neatly and neatly. Yi Hong was very happy to be able to help Ali. She smiled at Zishan and said, thank you. No need. Zishan said calmly. If it wasn't for Yi Hong's request, I wouldn't have helped them. Lai Gu and Zhu Tian looked towards Zishan. It has been so many days and Zishan still hasn't put down the airs of a deity. It seems like his honor is going to be disappointed. In actuality, Zhu Tian understood his honor's intention. To Zishan, his honor was thinking of testing her, to see if she could change the way of thinking of a deity. As for how his honor would be able to change the way of thinking of a deity, that would depend on little brother Red. Wei Chang hurriedly passed the answer to Dong Huangli. After hearing that, Dong Huangli smiled and placed both of her hands behind her back, looking like she was very knowledgeable. This gave Chu Bai a bad premonition. Could it be that she can even come up with such a couplet? Is she still a child? If you say no, then no. If you say yes, then no. Looking at Dong Huangli's petite figure, everyone couldn't help but admire her. A trace of cold sweat flowed out from Chu Bai's forehead, and his expression was very grave. Why is this little thing so outstanding? When I was this young master's age, I was still drinking milk. After keeping his folding fan, Chu Bai said gravely, Ali, you are not bad. Uncle is praising me. Dong Huangli even cupped her hands like an adult. However, Ali's answer is too slow. How about this, the last question? Ali can only think for 5 seconds. All of the family heads that were present gasped. This son of an aristocratic family is too despicable. Qingya shouted out coldly, what do you mean by this? Miss, don't be angry, Ali is still a child, I won't be serious. Chu Bai's words once again proved how shameless he was. Everyone wanted to look down on Chu Bai, but in the end, Chu Bai was still the son of an aristocratic family. Alright, this is the last question, Ali will agree to it. Dong Huangli was even more unwilling to back down. Chu Bai smiled cheerfully, alright. No matter what the result is, Uncle still admires Ali a lot. Ali also admires Uncle to be so serious with a child. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth. I don't believe your nonsense. Chu Bai smiled and didn't say anything. Waving his folding fan, he slowly said the last question. If you want to live a good life, you have to be cuckolded. This was also what Chu Bai said. Every time after he cuckolded someone, he would say this sentence. That feeling was just too great, especially the expression of the person who was cuckolded. It would be even more colorful. When Chu He heard what Chu Bai said, he shook his head. Don't look at how sloppy this eldest son of mine is. His strength is not below mine, but he doesn't like to fight and kill. Instead, he likes to play with other people's wives and play with those half-empty poems. If not for Dong Huangli stopping them, Qingye and Qing Yutong would have immediately taught Chu Bai a lesson. Meanwhile, Dong Huangli hurriedly passed the question to Wei Chang. After hearing that, Wei Chang was startled. Out of the 5 seconds, 2 seconds had already passed. Hurry up, there are still 3 seconds left, hurry up. Wei Chang became anxious, and the hostility that was coming out from his body couldn't help but spread out, causing the windows to creak. After hearing that, Big Brother Green's eyes shone, then hurriedly raised his hand. I know. If you want to live a good life, you have to be a good life. Big Brother Green hurriedly said. Everyone looked towards Big Brother Green in disbelief while Big Brother Green scratched his head embarrassedly. I just said it because I felt like it. Back then, when Big Brother Green was cuckolded by someone, these 2 sentences were still fresh in his memory. It just so happens that these 2 sentences can be put to good use today. Little Brother Red patted onto his big brother's shoulder, giving comfort to his big brother. Wei Chang hurriedly passed the answer over. Dong Huangli instantly said the answer, which was exactly 5 seconds, and she even mocked Chu Bai once. After hearing that, all of the family heads exclaimed in admiration. What a genius! Chapter 323. Xiao Yi led another wave of rhythm, followed by a warm round of applause. Dong Huangli politely expressed her thanks to the lords. Qingye and Qing Yutong let out a sigh of relief. This matter has come to an end, we can't allow Ali to continue messing around. Qingye hugged onto Ali. These fallacious reasoning must definitely have been taught by Yi Hua. This time, when I return back to the city, I have to properly talk to Yi Hua and tell him not to teach children like this. Mommy Qing, don't tell Daddy about this. If not, Daddy will definitely scold Ali. Dong Huangli also knew about this matter, thus she begged Qingye not to tell her father about this matter. Qingye pinched onto Dong Huangli's cheeks petulantly. You still know about it? In the future you can't be so mischievous anymore. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, hurriedly kept her phone, and had an expression as if nothing had happened. In actuality, the video had already been sent out. Ali, don't blame Aunt Qing, Ali is the one who said it too late. Chu Bai had a dazed look on his face. He hadn't expected that he, who had the title of immortal poet, would actually lose to a little fellow. Furthermore, it was under the watchful eyes of so many people. He had completely lost his face. After a long time, Chu Bai slowly said, Ali, uncle lost. Dong Huangli suddenly felt that this uncle of hers was pretty good. After all, Dong Huangli dares to face failure. Dong Huangli said in a childish voice, Uncle, don't be discouraged in the future, you have to learn more and strive to be able to win against Ali as soon as possible. All the clan heads blushed with shame. This little Ali was really sensible. He actually didn't mention the bet. It was too high. As for Chu Bai, he didn't expect that Ali would actually comfort him. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. However, as a son of an aristocratic family, his words were like spilled water. Since uncle has lost, then uncle will be Ali's little brother from now on. Chu Bai adjusted his heartbeat. Losing wasn't scary. What was scary was not daring to face it. It would affect his cultivation in the future. Chu Bai's words caused all the patriarchs to be startled. Originally, he was a son of an aristocratic family with a shameless image, but it seemed like he had suddenly changed. In this kind of situation, he still wanted to fulfill his promise. As expected of the son of an aristocratic family, he had a sense of responsibility. Yi Xiao, who was standing outside, said lightly, Old Chu, your eldest son has a good temperament. He will be able to take on great responsibilities in the future. You must be joking. Look at him. He doesn't look like he's going to take on a big responsibility. How embarrassing. Yi Xiao smiled and said, It would be great if my son had this kind of personality. He only knows how to lead a befuddled life all day long. The next generation of the Yi family can't be guaranteed. Chu He felt the same way and said in a deep voice, That's right. This generation is getting worse. We will be eliminated sooner or later. Old Chu, there's actually another big shot coming tonight, and the 6th aristocratic family in the north will be born tonight. Hearing that, Chu He's expression became grave. Brother Yi, Are you saying that Voidless Realms people are coming over tonight? Yeah, why else would Xiao Yi and Bai Zixing come? I was the one who informed them, but they still don't know, Yi Xiao said calmly. A few days ago, Voidless Realms people came to look for Yi Xiao, and asked Yi Xiao to find an opportunity to gather everyone together. And it just so happens that the once-a-year Yuan Linglong auction was going to be held, and thus Yi Xiao chose to hold the auction today. Just that, to the other aristocratic families, the addition of one more aristocratic family wasn't a happy thing. After all, the amount of resources that Voidless Realm was giving out was limited, and with the addition of one more aristocratic family, they would have to give out one more portion of resources. Back then, Dongfang family was also messed up because of this matter. Back then, because Voidless Realm was giving out longevity fruits, Dongfang family was very strong, and they had the power to suppress 5 aristocratic families by themselves. It was still the same saying, people are afraid of being famous, pigs are afraid of being fat. In actuality, back then, a strange thing happened. Out of the 2 ancient godly items that were found, one of them went missing, and the one that went missing was precisely the one that Dongfang family possessed. Voidless Realm sent people to investigate, but they didn't find anything. As time passed by, the matter slowly faded away. Brother Yi, looking at the time, it seems like it will be time to give out longevity fruits again next year. Chu He's tone carried a hint of coldness, seemingly wanting history to repeat itself. Yi Xiao silently nodded his head. That's right, how much we get is completely decided by the families below us, but next year there will be one more aristocratic family. This longevity fruit was Voidless Realm's specialty, and it only appeared once in 100 years. There were around 1,000 of them, among which Voidless Realm kept 900 of them for themselves and distributed them to disciples who contributed, and the remaining 100 of them were distributed to aristocratic families. However, it was not to be distributed evenly. Instead, it was to get the support of the families under the aristocratic families. Of course, this was only for publicity purposes. After all, the longevity fruit was strictly kept a secret. If news of it leaked out and they found out who had done it, it would be a matter of extermination. The 5 aristocratic families did not dare to act recklessly. However, the clan was completely unaware of the longevity fruit every 100 years. They thought that it was an evaluation of the aristocratic families. Back then, the Dongfang family was very powerful and had won over 80% of the families. This made the other families envious. Out of 100, you took 80, and the remaining 20 was divided among 5 families, with each family having 4. The 5 family heads couldn't sit still anymore, so they discovered the tragedy. This was also the reason why Yi Xiao wanted to help Tang Wushuang back then. Actually, in his heart, he wasn't really going to help Tang Wushuang snatch the ancient godly item. He was just putting on an act to get Tang Wushuang to do him a favor. When the time came, Tang Wushuang would vote for Yi Xiao. There was a reason for Voidless Realm to distribute the wealth like this. Voidless Realm was suppressing the number of wealth and letting aristocratic families do more good deeds. The more work, the more benefits. The Dongfang family had done too many good deeds, but in the end, that's right. Another portion has to be given out. Chu He let out a long sigh. No one heard their conversation. All of them were looking at little Ali taking in a lackey. As a parent, Qinya definitely had to stand out and speak up. My Ali is still young, let's forget about the bet just now. Hearing what Qinya's mom said, little Ali didn't protest. After all, children have to listen to their mommy. It is a pity that such a smart and quick-witted lackey is going to be wasted. I still want to expand the strength of the buried love family. Chu Bai's expression was firm. It seems like it's not okay for me to not be a lackey. Young lady, what you said is wrong. Everyone is an independent entity, and Ali is the same as well. For this kind of matter, Ali should definitely be the one to make the decision. Chu Bai wasn't afraid of losing. Besides, wouldn't it be better for him to lose? After all, following Ali every day is the same as being able to see the 2 ladies every day. Qing Ya and Qing Yutong had never seen such a shameless person before, to actually fight to be a child's lackey. It must be said that Chu Bai's decision was fortunate. It can't be said that he was fortunate, but rather, he had cultivated his fortune for many years to be able to become Dong Huang Li's lackey. Take a look at the Green and Red brothers. Ever since they met Dong Huang Li, their lives had undergone an earth-shattering change. Don't look at how Ali is still young right now. If I acknowledge her as my big brother, I will be able to bring honor to my ancestors in the future. However, different from the Green and Red brothers, Chu Bai joined the buried love family with a purpose in mind, and what he liked more was to become a married woman. Of course, in Yi Hua's group, there wasn't a single woman that you can afford to offend. They aren't frivolous women that you can easily swindle with just a few words. Chapter 324. Mommy Qing, Daddy already has so many underlings and Ali only has Uncle Green and Uncle Red. There are too few of them. Dong Huangli said while stammering. Look, Ali is still so young, but she has already been led astray by Papa. She even wants to take in underlings. This caused Qinya to faint from anger. In the future, I will have to supervise Ali together with Dong Huang Baiji. I must definitely not let Ali have any bad thoughts. However, Qing Yutong's way of thinking was different. As expected of brother-in-law's child, Ali had already started taking in underlings since he was young, and when he grows up, wouldn't he be able to soar into the sky? However, Ali's words were heard by some people. Little Ali's papa had a lot of underlings. This was a very important clue. He had to remember it. The most important thing was that little Ali actually had 2 little brothers. This was too exaggerated. It was likely that the adults were just teasing her. Green and Red brothers are the Love Burial family's left and right law enforcers, and Dong Huangli is a big shot. In the future, Dong Huangli will have to carry forward the Love Burial family. Qinya said tenderly, Ali, children cannot be like this. Wah, Ali wants a little brother. Do you want? Dong Huangli immediately started throwing a tantrum, causing Qinya to feel helpless. If Dong Huang Baiji was here, Dong Huangli might not dare to create trouble. After all, Dong Huangli was rather afraid of her mother. However, right now Dong Huangli was Qinya. Dong Huangli dared to act like this because Qinya wouldn't blame Dong Huangli heavily, and would even compromise with Dong Huangli. Don't underestimate Ali. Ali is very smart. No. Qinya didn't know how to coax a child. After all, Dong Huangli had always been very obedient. Ali wants daddy. Dong Huangli immediately used her ultimate skill, causing Qinya to be caught unprepared. Qinya had no choice but to seek help from her little sister. Qing Yutong spread out her hands. It is still better for you to make the decision yourself. Miss, don't force the child. You have to let him fly, Chu Bai said with a smile. Qinya coldly looked at Chu Bai, expressing that she really wanted to let him go. Shut up. Facing Dong Huangli, who was crying loudly, Qinya let out a light sigh. Don't cry anymore. Mommy Qing, did you promise Ali? Dong Huangli opened her big watery eyes and asked pitifully. For the first time, Qinya felt that it was very hard to take care of a child. That will have to be approved by your daddy. Qinya could only kick the ball to Yi Hua. Alright. If Papa knew that he had accepted a little brother, he would definitely be happy. Uncle, quickly come over, my mommy Qing has agreed to it. Dong Huangli waved her hand towards Chu Bai. Chu Bai couldn't wait to walk up to the 2 beauties. Uncle, lower your head. Right now, Dong Huangli was still being carried within Qinya's embrace, and Dong Huangli said to Chu Bai with a smile. As Dong Huangli's little brother, Chu Bai naturally had to listen to Dong Huangli's words. This way the beauty would have a good impression of him. You don't know, but your impression is already gone. Dong Huangli could be seen poking at Chu Bai's hair with her small hands, then parted Chu Bai's hair from the middle. Chu Bai, who had his head lowered, knew what Dong Huangli was doing, and he had a helpless look on his face. This little Ali is truly very mischievous. Uncle, you look much more handsome like this. Dong Huangli was very satisfied with her masterpiece. Needless to say, this 50-50 ratio really suited Chu Bai very well. It had a hint of arrogance and defiance to it. Uncle, thank you Ali. While speaking, Chu Bai took a look at Qinya and Qing Yutong. When I look at them, they are truly beautiful, to the point that I don't even dare to have extravagant thoughts about them. Towards Chu Bai's gaze, Qinya and Qing Yutong were already at ease. After all, I can't just gouge out the eyes of others just because I look at them, right? Who asked me to be so handsome? Sigh, this is truly vexing. Seeing his son's current appearance, he felt resentful towards his son for failing to live up to his expectations. Of course, he also understood that his son's goal was to get close to the 2 beauties. In actuality, everyone's thoughts were more or less the same. This Chu Bai is quite something. His thoughts are quite meticulous. He actually managed to sneak into the enemy's inner circle and openly follow the 2 beauties. Song Huang was feeling very depressed. I should be the one standing beside them. But now that I am squeezing into the inner circle, it is very embarrassing. Forget it. Later on, let's see where you all are going to sit. The people that I invited all have their own seats, and since I brought you all here, you all don't have any seats at all. If you don't come with me, you all can only be chased away. However, Qinya and Qing Yutong both forgot that there was still Song Huang. Dear guests, the auspicious time has arrived. let's enter the auction hall. Along with the sound coming from the surroundings, everyone walked into Yuan Linglong's inner circle one after another. The foreplay was very exciting. Little Ali crushed the son of an aristocratic family. I wonder if the later part will be even more exciting. This year's Yuan Linglong's auction is finally going to be interesting. This trip was not made in vain. Within the group, Tang Wushuang was following behind Gui Qingren, and the two of them did not talk much. Just now, Gui Qingren had been sitting at the side and eating melon seeds while reading a novel, and Tang Wushuang was accompanying him. Xiao Yi and Xu Nan, on the other hand, were watching Dong Huangli's performance. Xu Nan also wanted to give birth to an adorable child like Ali. Bai Cixin and her husband Wang Debao were also watching Dong Huangli's performance. Wang Debao was laughing so hard that his stomach was aching, while Bai Cixin was as calm as water. Bai Qi's expression was not very good, seemingly still brooding over the matter that happened earlier. Bai Qi was continuously scolding Dong Fangyu, who was beside him. Dong Fangyu, did not resist and kept listening to Bai Qi's scolding, causing Bai Qi to become even angrier. Chu Bai didn't follow his father and followed Dong Huangli instead. After all, the younger brother naturally has to follow his big brother, and he also has to protect the two beauties. Yuan Linglong's appearance was only for the annual auction, and at other times, it was rarely opened. Of course, all of this was decided by Yi Xiao. After all, this was Yi family's territory. After passing through the main hall at the front, everyone arrived at a spacious venue. The center of the venue was very clean, and the floor that was paved with jades was emitting out spiritual energy. Those jades were clearly not ordinary jades but spirit jades. This Yi family sure is generous. The seats had already been properly arranged. The seats were divided into 3 layers, the top, the middle, and the bottom. The tables that were made from green jade and mahogany were very stylish, and on top of the tables, fruits and desserts were placed for the guests to enjoy. Beside every table, there was a servant girl who was serving the guests. Although the servant girls were not as beautiful, they were still very rare. The one on the rostrum was naturally Yi Zhao's, and beside him, there was a seat that was set up. Presumably that seat was Chu He's. Every single seat had a name written on it, and even on the invitation card, the seats were already marked. Everyone began looking for their seats. Although the seats were divided into 3 layers, it did not mean that the seats at the top would have a high status. Rather, the seats that were closer to Yi Zhao's side would have a higher status. For example, Xiao Yi, Tang Wushuang, and Bai Cixin, all of them were outstanding family heads, and they were very close to Yi Zhao's side. However, Song Huang, the sage doctor, was very close to Yi Zhao's side, and this caused Song Huang's originally displeased heart to become alive again. Enjoying the envy of everyone, this kind of feeling is truly great. Meanwhile, Qingye, who was hugging onto Dong Huangli, was standing at the entrance and observing the situation. This seems to be different from what I had expected. I still have to take my seat. Chapter 325. Qingye looked towards that Song Huang. As expected, he still has a righteous look on his face. So this is the famous sage doctor of the north? This bearing is nothing more than this. What a hypocritical man. Xiao Qing, how about sitting over at my place? Xiao Yi walked over and asked. This time it wasn't Xu Nan who suggested it, it was Xiao Yi who took the initiative to chat with her. Xiao, there's no need. Qingye replied politely. If I sit over at Xiao family's place, wouldn't others think that I'm from Xiao family? Qingye didn't want Yi Hua to misunderstand. This was a matter of reputation. Xu Nan shook her head and thought to herself, Brother Xiao, why are you so stupid? He already has a family, what's the point of sitting with you? Xiao Yi went into a daze. I'm sorry. It's fine. Qingye was very confused about Xiao Yi's attitude today. Perhaps I should find some time to ask him about it. Of course, Tang Wushuang didn't invite Qingye and sat down with his master. Of course, Bai Cixin didn't either. She just nodded her head politely, and in the blink of an eye, 70 to 80% of the seats were already taken. Qingye, sit over at my place. At this moment, Qin Xuanzong suddenly walked over and said. Although Qingye was very cold towards him, Qin Xuanzong didn't have any intention of giving up, and he also wouldn't back down. Qingye could be heard saying faintly, Fatty, I already have a family, you don't have to say any more. Qingye, why are you doing this? Qin Xuanzong didn't understand. What's so good about that Long Outyen? Although Qingye doesn't know whether Long Outyen's martial arts are deep or not, Qingye knew that Yi Hua's martial arts were very deep. With a swoosh, Chu Bai walked out from the back while waving his folding fan. He had a very elegant expression on his face. What are you yelling about? I asked you to leave, why aren't you leaving? Are you trying to get a midnight snack? Chu Bai waved his folding fan and said very impolitely. This kind of job of protecting beauties was something that he was very familiar with. Qin Xuanzong knew that Chu Bai was the son of an aristocratic family, and he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Qin Xuanzong had to endure for now. Qingya, I'll go over first then. Qin Xuanzong was still very polite and even seemed very humble. In actuality, the more he acted like this, the more Qingya hated him. At a time like this, showing off one's strength was the most important thing to do. However, it was still useless because Qingya was no longer the Qingya of the past, she had now awakened. With Qingya's strength, not a single person present would be able to withstand her attacks. After all, back then when Qingya awakened, Wei Chang's initial judgment was that Death Mage wasn't Qingya's opponent. Furthermore, Death Mage was already strong to an abnormal degree. He was even able to insta-kill a big shot. What about aristocratic families? About blowing air. Therefore, the biggest boss at the scene was Qingya. Actually, there was still a hidden boss. Right now, Dong Huangli knew how to play with fire. Dong Huangli knew how to play with fire, and what she was playing with was a true deviant flame. No one in this place would be able to withstand the flames. Back then, even Yi Zizi had fainted from the flames. Of course, there was also a mini-boss, and that was Qin Yutong. When Qingya was a celebrity, she had completed all of the missions given by the system, and her strength had also reached an abnormal degree. Qingya's strength was almost at the same level as Death Mage. If not, how would Qingya dare to mess around with Yi Zizi? However, this was the limit of the system. If the system wanted to level up any further, it would have to depend on luck. After meeting Yi Hua, the system decisively gave me a mission. Of course, there was also that livestream mission. However, Qin Yutong had already forgotten about it. With such a big backing like brother-in-law, it would be fine for me to just be a spoiled sister-in-law. Why the hell would I even do any more missions? As for Chu Bai, who was beside her, Strength-666, I really can't bring it out in public. Qin Yutong secretly took a glance at her big sister, and discovered that big sister is trying to do something tonight? Is she preparing to explode? If she explodes, that would truly feel great. Just that, with big sister's mentality, she would at most scold a few words and definitely won't kill anyone. It's much better to act cool with brother-in-law. Whoever he wants to get their lunchbox will get their lunchbox, and I won't even give them their salary. Big sister, what should we do? Qin Yutong was already rubbing her palms together. These seats were arranged very neatly, and it was impossible for them to fit into the seats. If we don't add seats, are we going to make big sister stand? Or are we going to chase her out? If brother-in-law were to find out about this, all of you would have to die. Qingya had never encountered such a thing before, but her bloodline was telling her that her bloodline was not to be looked down upon by anyone. Haha, Ali is not happy now. They are actually not giving me seats, I'm going to tell Daddy about this. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth and said, if you still don't give me a seat, Ali is going to snitch on you. If Daddy were to find out about this, all of you will be finished. Qingya already knew of Yi Hua's strength. To be able to fight against that shadowy figure for so long, he is even stronger than me. These people are definitely not his opponent. They made me and my child feel wronged, and with Yi Hua's personality he would definitely kill all of them. Just that, there are good people among these people. Today I was just tricked by that Song Huang, which is why I ended up in such an awkward situation. Qingya comforted Dong Huangli, Ali, be good, Mommy Qing will find a seat for you. No, Ali doesn't want Mommy Qing to feel wronged. Dong Huangli was very stubborn. She stretched out her little finger and a beautiful purple flame appeared. Qingya and Qin Yutong's beautiful faces were immediately illuminated by the purple flame. If this little flame were to be thrown out, then basically everyone present would be dead. Ali, how did you make this happen? Chu Bai cried out in surprise. He didn't sense the aura of the firmament ghost fire. Because his strength was too weak, he only thought that it was just a flame. Meanwhile, Qingya and Qin Yutong were able to sense that the purple flame contained a terrifying might. It was not an exaggeration to say that everything within a circumference of a mile would be turned into scorched earth. Uncle, do you want to play with it? I will let you play with it. Dong Huangli didn't know the might of the firmament ghost fire at all, and she thought that she could let others play with it. And Chu Bai really stretched out his hand to touch this man who didn't care about his life. Qingya shouted out gravely, don't touch it. Chu Bai almost touched it, but he was stopped by Qingya. Ali, quickly retract the flame. Qingya wrinkled her brows. Why does Ali know such a terrifying technique? Without even thinking, I already know who taught Ali. I don't even know what to say to Yihua anymore. How can such a dangerous technique be taught to a child? If the child were to act recklessly, wouldn't we be finished? Seeing that Qinya was a bit angry, Dong Huangli retracted the firmament ghost fire. Mommy Qing, don't be angry, acting coquettishly was Ali's way of doing things. Ali, is this what Daddy taught you? Qinya asked. Dong Huangli nodded her head. What else did Daddy teach you? Hearing what Qinya said, Dong Huangli wanted to show off again. 10 different types of flames could be seen appearing on Dong Huangli's fingertips. Qinya and Qing Yutong's mouth twitched. Brother-in-law sure dares to teach. Qinya was helpless. This time, when I go back, I definitely have to hold a family meeting. In the future, the child's education and learning of techniques will all be taken care of by me and Baiji. Ali sure is formidable, this magic trick is awesome. Chapter 326. This was a follower who could wave a fan and shout 666. Alright, Ali, quickly put it away. You can't casually play with fire in the future. It's very dangerous. Qinya was very attentive in teaching Dong Huangli, and Dong Huangli was also very willing to listen to Qinya. Dong Huangli felt that Qinya was a lot gentler and easier to talk to than her mom. Mama always had a straight face. Recently, this situation had improved a lot. Dong Huangli retracted the flames on her 10 fingers, and Ali understands. While they were talking, everyone had taken their seats. Only the 3 of them were still standing. The situation was a little awkward. Chu Bai, who was behind him, didn't say anything. This beautiful lady definitely wouldn't accept his help, so there was no need to get involved. Qing Yutong only thought that since someone came to act cool, then I am already prepared to slap that person's face. It has been a long time since I caused trouble and my hands are a bit itchy. If that was the case, then Qing Yutong would be disappointed. 2 attendants could be seen carrying a table and walking over, and placing the table beside Qinya. One of the attendants said, Miss, this is prepared by my master for you. Qinya looked towards Yi Xiao who was on the rostrum, and the latter nodded his head with a smile. However, Qinya returned the greeting very politely. I feel that this Yi family's family head is very gentlemanly, or perhaps he is giving face to the son of an aristocratic family, but who knows? The other family heads were still very surprised. Ever since Yuan Linglong opened for business, something like this had never happened before. At first it was Xiao Yi, then it was Bai Cixin, and now it was Yi Xiao. Just who was this woman to be able to receive such treatment? Everyone was curious. Song Huang was extremely displeased. Initially, as long as they were willing to lower their heads to Song Huang, he would let bygones be bygones. But he never thought that such a thing would happen. All the plans today had been disrupted. To Qinya, since she was already here, she might as well watch the auction first before leaving. Qinya brought along her little sister and sat cross-legged at the table, while Chu Bai sat at the back and waved his fan in boredom. This auction is so boring, there isn't even a chance to be a hero and save a beauty. As the family head, Yi Xiao stood up and began to speak. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard by everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone here. This Yi is deeply honored. Today's auction items will be provided by my Yi family, and all the income will be donated to the impoverished mountainous areas. At the end of his speech, the audience applauded enthusiastically. By the side, Chu He's expression changed slightly. This Yi Xiao was very generous, using such a method to win over people's hearts. From the looks of it, he was building a good foundation for next year's longevity fruit. It seemed that he had to act as well, and the other 3 families were probably preparing to act as well. Big sister, should we take some back? Qing Yutong asked curiously. Qinya said faintly, do you have money? Qing Yutong paused, then rolled her eyes. Right now, my food and lodging are all brother-in-law and big sisters. I have no choice but to lower my head when living under the eaves. However, regarding charity, Qinya felt that she still had to do it. I might as well learn from Yi Hua and donate all of my income to charity. In the future, I will just have to rely on Yi Hua to support me. If Yi Hua knew what Qinya was thinking about, he would definitely jump up. Leisure Bar's business was already not good to begin with, and if I were to still donate money, my entire family would have to go hungry. However, Qinya felt that her way of thinking was pretty good. Men, after all, have to give me some pressure. If not, how can I just stay at home all day and not go out to work? I have to discuss this matter with Baiji. In the future, I and Baiji will stay at home and take care of the child, while Yi Hua will be responsible for raising the child. Qingya's way of thinking was pretty good. If the Supreme Overlord were to go out and carry bricks, Yi Hua would most likely be angered to death. Dong Huangli, who was eating on a big apple, said with a smile. Aunt Qing, don't be sad, Daddy is even poorer than you. Qing Yutong laughed. Speaking of which, although brother-in-law is very powerful and disdains to go out and earn money, he still has to live his life. Every time I see brother-in-law asking big sister for money, it is simply too amusing. However, big sister is also a demon that dotes on her husband, and will always listen to brother-in-law's request in every way possible. I heard that recently brother-in-law's living expenses have increased to 100 RMB per day. Furthermore, it was through WeChat transfer. Yutong, when do you plan to start working? Qingya asked. Big sister, can we not learn from others? Everyone is working, but I, Qing Yutong, am not working. Hee, just wait to starve to death in the future. Qingya laughed dryly. Qing Yutong held onto her big sister's arm and said sweetly, don't I still have big sister? How can I bear to let my little sister starve to death on the streets? Dong Huangli hugged onto Qingya and said, what Aunt Qing said is right, Ali will have to rely on Mama Qing in the future. Qing Yutong and Dong Huangli high-fived each other. Qingya was helpless. Seems like only when I don't have money will I be able to improve myself. You want money? I have a lot of money, how much do you want? Chu Bai, who was at the back, saw the opportunity. Qing Yutong looked at Chu Bai in disdain. Who wants your money? Even if I, Qing Yutong, starve to death, I won't want your money. That's right, even if Ali goes to beg for food, you can't use your little brother's money. Wow, what an ambitious person. Chu Bai expressed his admiration towards Ali. Just as the three of them were talking, the first auction item had already been carried onto the auction stage by the staff. The person in charge of the auction was an old man, and the old man seemed to be very experienced. The staff could be seen taking off the cloth covering the auction stage, and a commotion could be heard. On the stage, a small bottle could be seen. The workmanship of the bottle was fine, and the bottle was golden in color. Although the opening of the bottle was blocked, a pleasant fragrance still floated in the air, shocking everyone. The old man said unhurriedly, this item is bejeweled jade Immortal Dew, a product of Voidless Realm. Yi family head was fortunate enough to receive Voidless Realm's reward, and today Yi family head even brought it out to be auctioned. The bright jade Immortal Dew has the effect of strengthening the body, and it is also known to cure all kinds of diseases. Cultivators who drink it can even stabilize their strength, but this is not the greatest use of the bright jade Immortal Dew. It can adjust the body functions of women, making them more beautiful, slow down aging and maintain their youth forever. The scene was silent for a moment. What followed was the exclamations of the women. In terms of appearance, it was a woman's life. And this small bottle of bejeweled jade Immortal Dew was the antidote to their rebirth. Who doesn't wish to become more beautiful and alluring, obtain the favor of men, and want to become like Qingya even more? Even Bai Cixin was tempted, not to mention the others. In actuality, Tang Wushuang was also moved. Qing Yutong muttered, is it really that mystical? Qingya said tenderly, the effect of those meats is 1,000 times better than this. I think so as well. Qing Yutong muttered. Qingya knew that the bright jade Immortal Dew was nothing more than spring water that fell from the sky in Voidless Realm. However, compared to those meats that Yi Hua brought with him, the bright jade Immortal Dew was far too inferior. However, to them this bright jade Immortal Dew might be a treasure. Chu Bai, who was at the back, was unconvinced. This bright jade Immortal Dew is a treasure, and yet, it is actually being described as mineral water by them. Ladies Qing, although I don't know what meats you two are talking about, this bright jade Immortal Dew is indeed amazing. Chu Bai felt that there was a need to give the two of them some knowledge. So spicy, so spicy, so spicy. Dong Huangli ate a piece of marinated duck. Who knew that the marinated duck was super spicy? Qingya suddenly recalled that she saved a few bottles of bright jade Immortal Dew. Although the quality of the bright jade Immortal Dew cannot be compared to those meats, it is still qualified to be used as mineral water. Stretching out her slender hand, Qingya took out a bottle of Nongfu spring water. Chapter 327. According to the clan's historical records, this kind of cultivation technique only existed in ancient times. And the beauty in front of him actually knew how to do it. Just who was she? Qingya twisted open the bottle cap, and immediately, a burst of fragrance floated out. The corner of Chu Bai's mouth twitched violently. Isn't this the smell of bejeweled jade immortal nectar? Although he had only drunk a small bottle before, the taste was still fresh in his memory. Dong Huangli took a look at the small bottle that was below the stage, then took a look at the mineral water bottle that was in Qingya's hand. What was even more ferocious was that Dong Huangli held onto the mineral water bottle and started drinking madly. Half of a bottle of jadeite immortal dew was gone in an instant. Chu Bai felt his heart ache when he saw this. The amount that I drank at that time should be around the size of a bottle cap, right? Aunt Qing, this water is very tasty, it's almost the same as the water that Ali's house has, you should drink some too. Dong Huangli passed the water over. Good things should naturally be shared. Qing Yutong was also not polite, and immediately picked up the cup and started drinking. Not bad, very sweet. Looking at the empty bottle, Chu Bai was stupefied. This was too savage. Too savage. However, Qingya took out another bottle of water and placed it on the table, then said with a smile, "This water is very effective in quenching thirst." Oh my god. They actually used the luminous jade immortal dew to quench their thirst. Detoxify the spiciness. Prodigal. What a prodigal. Unforgivable. Uncle, do you want a cup? Dong Huangli asked with a smile on her face. Aye. Seeing that her uncle was embarrassed, Dong Huangli poured a cup of wine and passed it to Chu Bai. Dong Huangli even spilled a lot of wine, causing Chu Bai to feel like crying. Thank you, Ali. Chu Bai held the paper cup in his hand as if he had received a treasure. There's no need to thank me. Dong Huangli said with a sweet smile. It has been a long time since I drank the water that I drank at home. Chu Bai looked at the bejeweled jade immortal nectar in his hand, not daring to take a bite. Instead he stuck out his tongue and licked it. It was still the same feeling, just like first love. He actually used a paper cup to contain it. What a waste of a heavenly treasure. He even spilled so much of it. It was comparable to an auction item. With the bejeweled jade immortal nectar that was able to alleviate the spiciness, Qing Yutong and Dong Huangli began tearing the marinated duck with soy sauce with their hands. Sis, make more in the future. It's really good. Qingya smiled and said, all right, next time I will get a big bucket to collect the water. Chu Bai, who was at the back, immediately spurted out his drink. Using a bucket to catch the water. Can you guys take into consideration the feelings of a little loser like me? It was delicious. Everyone present revealed greedy gazes as they stared at the small bottle in the middle. They had no idea that these people were drinking the jadeite immortal dew like water, and it was a bottle of jadeite immortal dew. In the future he would have to switch to barrels. Meanwhile, Qingya straightforwardly took out all of them. The speed at which the little fellow drank water was rather fast. 3 bottles of Nongfu Mountain Spring version of jadeite jade immortal nectar were placed on the table. Behind him, Chu Bai was already numb. This woman was too mysterious. No, they were all very mysterious. The starting price of the Jasper Immortal Dew is 1 spirit stone, the auctioneer shouted. Hearing this rule, everyone was confused. They didn't expect that this auction would be converted into spirit stones. A spirit stone was worth around 1 million. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was just a worthless stone. However, it was of great help to cultivators. Yi Xiao smiled and said, I will convert these spirit stones into money and donate them. Chu He felt that Yi Xiao's goal was very unclear. Spirit stones were rare. Although there was a price, very few people sold them. After all, they were cultivation items. Could it be that Yi Xiao wanted a large number of spirit stones? 10. Wang Debao was the first to bid. As expected of a nouveau riche, he immediately bid 10 spirit stones. In actuality, what Wang Debao was thinking right now was that after my wife drank the jadeite immortal dew, she would become even more beautiful, and then, that feeling would definitely be able to soar. How could Bai Zixin not know what her husband was thinking? However, she didn't say anything and just watched quietly. Everyone present sighed. This Wang Debao is so shameless, he actually raised the price to 10 spirit stones in one go. Although I can exchange it for 10 million spirit stones, if I were to use 10 million spirit stones to buy spirit stones, how long would that take? The wives of the various family masters started acting coquettishly and gave out all kinds of tempting conditions. As long as they could obtain the jadeite immortal dew, they would do whatever they wanted. Hearing their wives giving out such conditions, the various family masters were all filled with adrenaline. 20. Xiao Yi shouted faintly. Xiao Yi wanted to bid for the bottle of jadeite immortal dew and give it to Shu Nan. During this period of time, Shu Nan had been working very hard, running all over the place for Xiao Yi, and even being willing to die for Xiao Yi. How could Xiao Yi not take good care of his beloved wife? This bottle of jadeite immortal dew naturally has to be bid for Shu Nan. Gui Qingren was peeling peanuts while reading a novel earnestly. He said to Tang Wushuang, who didn't dare to bid, Wushuang, this bottle of jadeite immortal dew will be very useful to you, it will be the icing on the cake. Icing on the cake. Become even more like a woman. Tang Wushuang gasped for air. Becoming a woman is something that will happen sooner or later. Then, even if I have to become a woman, I have to become a beautiful woman. 25. Tang Wushuang shouted out in a low voice. Xiao Yi looked towards Tang Wushuang, thinking that Tang Wushuang was bickering with him. Just like that, the price rose to 25 spirit stones, and a few family masters wanted to retreat. After all, 25 spirit stones was almost half of their family's wealth. For a bottle of water that could make a woman beautiful, the various family masters felt that the price-performance ratio was not high. However, this also made the wives beside them very unhappy. If I don't get this bottle of water, don't expect me to drink water for you in the future. 50. Wang Debao shouted out in a rich and imposing manner. These 50 spirit stones were already the sum of the family's wealth. Everyone felt that this by family was indeed formidable, to have collected so many spirit stones. Just as Xiao Yi was about to increase the price, Shunan who was beside him hurriedly stopped him. Brother Xiao, don't increase the price, we are currently developing and spirit stones have a lot of uses. Indeed, for example, gifting a piece of spirit stone to another family, that would be a huge debt of gratitude. Shunan, you have helped me so much, it's just a few spirit stones, I Xiao Yi can still afford it. After finished speaking, Xiao Yi shouted out loudly. 55 spirit stones. Shunan was very touched and she lightly leaned onto her husband's side. Everyone felt that the three families were going to fight against each other, and it was better for them to not participate in it. 60 spirit stones. Qin Xuanzong suddenly shouted out. As for why he increased the price, it was because Xiao Yi shouted out. As long as Xiao Yi was in pain, paying a bit of spirit stones was nothing. However, when Qin Xuanzong returned this time, he didn't bring a lot of spirit stones with him. Qin Yutong raised her head and drank another cup of spirit stones. I feel like I'm going to get drunk. Qin Yutong was a bit muddle-headed as she held onto her chin and said foolishly. Dong Huangli had already fallen asleep while lying on Qin Ye's bosom. Dong Huangli's face was bright red and she looked very cute. From time to time, Dong Huangli would purse her lips. The effect of Voidless Realm's spring water was indeed not bad, but if one were to drink too much of it, it would make one feel drunk. If one were to drink a cup of this spring water every day, one would be completely satisfied. As for Qin Yutong and Dong Huangli, for the sake of getting rid of the spiciness, they drank 2 bottles each. Chu Bai, who was at the back, had unknowingly finished drinking the spring water as well. Right now he was secretly licking the cup, wanting to drink every single drop of the spring water. Chapter 328. 65. Wang Debao increased the bid again. Everyone was astonished. He was indeed a prodigal. Xiao Yi was about to bid again. This time Shunan really stopped him. Brother Xiao, I know your intentions, but I can't increase it anymore. It's not worth it. For you, everything is worth it, Xiao Yi said affectionately. Brother Xiao, have you forgotten about Sister Nangong? The Xiao family is currently in a difficult time, don't pay the price for these useless things. Shunan had no choice but to say Nangong Sini. Only then would Xiao Yi let go. Thinking about the frozen Nangong Sini in the basement, Xiao Yi slowly put down his hand and a desolate expression appeared on his face. Brother Xiao, big sister Nangong also hopes that you can make the Xiao family flourish. Xiao Yi took a deep breath. I understand. Thank you, Shunan. Shunan smiled. Xiao Yi had changed a lot. He wasn't as impulsive as before. He had learned to endure. 70. Tang Wushuang increased the price once again. When Qin Xuanzong saw that Xiao Yi wasn't going to add on any more, he didn't add on any more. Right now it was Wang Debao versus Tang Wushuang. Prodigal versus Soldier King. No, it was a prodigal against a Soldier King who was about to change. Wang Debao cast a glance at Tang Wushuang who was not far away, then shouted out coldly, 100. Tang Wushuang's expression congealed. This was already a third of Tang clan's spirit stones. 101. A moaning sound could be heard coming from the other side, and Qin Yutong shouted out drunkenly. Qin Ye pinched her little sister. What are you randomly shouting for? Do you even have spirit stones? Qin Yutong stuck out her tongue. What I said just now was just drunken talk, it doesn't count. 102. Song Huang shouted. When Holy Dr. Song took action, everyone was amazed. As expected of Holy Dr. Song, he took out hundreds of spirit stones. Song Huang just wanted to teach this girl who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. Besides, he had only added one so the Tang family and the Bai family wouldn't have to change their names, right? Wang Debao was about to shout when Bai Cixin, who was beside him, said softly, "It's done." Wang Debao was a good boy. He was a man who listened to his wife. Tang Wushuang was currently pondering. 100+ spirit stones is a bit too much, and I still need to use spirit stones for my cultivation. 102 going once. The auctioneer began the countdown. Song Huang's expression was a little strange. "I only added one and you guys stopped calling me. It seems like you guys are working together to screw me over." 102 going twice. 102 going thrice. Congratulations to Sacred Dr. Song for obtaining the Jasper Immortal Nectar. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Song Huang squeezed out a smile, stood up, and cupped his hands in front of his chest. 102 spirit stones. I've only collected 103 of them after so long. In an instant there was only one left. It's all because of that Qin Yutong. This jinx. He had to make her pay. Especially now that she was showing a gloating smile, it was simply intolerable. "Mommy Qing, Ali feels so hot." Dong Huangli shouted out with her eyes closed. After taking a look at Qin Yutong, who was at the side, Qin Yutong's forehead was also emitting fine beads of sweat. He drank too much. Qinya had no other choice but to take out the star-cleansing fan that Yi Hua had given her back then and lightly fan it. Feeling the refreshing breeze, Dong Huangli gradually fell asleep again. Qin Yutong took out the golden fan that her brother-in-law gave her and immediately fanned herself. "It's so hot." Fortunately, the power of the two fans was sealed by Yi Hua. If not, with Qin Yutong's hair, something bad would definitely happen. "Qin Yutong, are you hiding something from me?" Seeing that her little sister took out a fan for no reason, Qinya asked curiously. Qin Yutong pouted her mouth. "He who doesn't have some skills? It seems like my little sister is hiding something very deeply. This is good as well, at least I don't have to worry about her." Chu Bai, who was at the back, didn't want to say anything anymore. "We really can't afford to offend her." The auction was still continuing, and everyone's gaze moved towards the second auction item. When Qinya and Qin Yutong saw the second auction item, they couldn't help but look at the fan that was in their hands. Why is the auction item today almost the same as the one that we are using? The second auction item was also a fan. The old man could be heard saying slowly, "This fan's name is Ancient Comb, and it was personally made by Yi family head. The feathers are made from the wings of spirit beasts, and the skeleton is also made from the bones of spirit beasts. It has the effect of having a cool breeze caressing one's face, and it can also be used as a spirit artifact in battle. The starting price is 1 spirit stone." The two sisters took a look at their own fans, then let out a breath, then started fanning themselves again. "Spirit beasts are nothing. I have seen ancient godly beasts in Voidless Realm back then, and these two fans are made from ancient beasts, and they are existences that are even more supreme than ancient godly beasts." Towards this kind of beautiful and spirit artifact fan, all of the family heads were quite fond of it, and they all fought to bid for it. However, to Bai family, this spirit artifact could only be considered as ordinary. After all, Bai family already had an ancient godly item, 9 Demons Punishing Tower. And Xiao Yi also had an ancient godly item, Shenyuan Sword, and thus this spirit artifact was nothing to him. Thus, in the end, the spirit artifact was bought by a family head for 15 spirit stones. The auction was still continuing, just that Qinya and Qin Yutong felt bored. "Big sister, let's go back, I'm tired." Qin Yutong yawned. Qinya was also a bit sleepy. "This auction is truly boring, I don't know what they are so excited about." Of course, other people would be excited. These spirit artifacts are all made of spiritual energy, and it is such a rare opportunity that only appears once a year. In order to increase their family strength, all of the family heads were putting in quite a lot of effort. However, just as everyone was fighting over a spirit artifact, the space in front of them suddenly distorted. Everyone raised their head and looked at the space in confusion. Qinya and Qin Yutong looked at the space in front of them curiously, seemingly not intending to leave for the time being and take a look at the situation. When 3 figures walked out from the distorted space, all of the family heads were very puzzled. On the other hand, Yi Xiao and Chu He were startled as they hurriedly stood up, then cupped their hands and shouted, "Greetings to Voidless Realm's ambassador." The scene immediately became quiet. No one expected that someone from Voidless Realm would appear, and soon after, the two hurriedly cupped their hands and shouted, "Greetings to Voidless Realm's ambassador." Qinya was also very surprised. "I didn't expect that someone from Voidless Realm would actually come over. I have met this person before, he seems to be someone who specializes in evaluating aristocratic families and families." Baiji had once met him, and at that time I was also present at the scene. However, my position in Voidless Realm is only second to Yuenda and those old officials. The three people who were standing in the air were an old man and two young men. The old man who was standing in front had white hair and a beard, and was wearing a white robe. Although his eyes were squinted, they revealed a shrewd look. The two young men who were following behind the old man should be the guards. The two young men were wearing white armor, and they were coldly looking at everyone. As expected of Voidless Realm, even the way they appear is so arrogant, and that expression. When Yu Quan was looking at everyone to raise his prestige, he looked at someone who he shouldn't be looking at, and the walking stick in his hand almost fell onto the ground. That person actually dares to be the Empress's sister, and just now I was already disrespectful. I actually used that kind of gaze to look at that person. My crime is unforgivable. Right now, I definitely have to go and pay my respects to the Empress and beg for her forgiveness. Qinya seemed to know what Yu Quan's intention was, and she hurriedly sent a voice transmission over. Pretend that you don't know me, just do what you are supposed to do. Qinya didn't want to reveal her identity, mainly because she was afraid that they would try to curry favor with her father, and when the time comes her father wouldn't even know that he was being sold. After receiving Qinya's voice transmission, Yu Quan could finally be at ease. Chapter 329. All the family heads exclaimed in admiration. What does Voidless Realm's people mean by appearing at this time? No matter what Voidless Realm means, being able to meet someone from Voidless Realm in this lifetime, I will have no more regrets. Even though he was just standing in the air, the aura he exuded was truly unstoppable. He was like a high and mighty god. Even Yi Xiao and Chu He had to treat him with respect. If Voidless Realm's Empress were to appear, what kind of scene would that be? What kind of glory would that be? What kind of breathtaking beauty would that be? If he could catch a glimpse of it, his life would be worth it. Perhaps these people would never know that right now, the Empress was currently lying in Yi Hua's embrace, and Yi Hua's hands were very mischievously reaching into the Empress's pajamas. Even though she was sleeping, the Empress's beautiful face was still carrying a bit of redness. Xiao Yi and Bai Cixin, who were present, seemed to know the main purpose of today's event. No wonder Yi Xiao took the initiative to invite them. So today was the day to announce the event. Yu Quan stood in the void and shouted, "By the order of Her Majesty the Empress, we will announce the winner of the 6th aristocratic family." The dignified melody made all the patriarchs present not dare to raise their heads to look at it. However, the thought of being able to witness the birth of the 6th aristocratic family excited everyone. This was a historic moment. Furthermore, the 6th aristocratic family was either the Xiao or the Bai family, and it felt like the Bai family had a higher chance of winning. Maybe a miracle would happen. Xiao Yi's personal strength was still very strong. Yi Xiao floated in front of Yu Quan and respectfully said, "Ambassador, why don't you sit down and drink some water first? The auction is about to end, and the wine has already been prepared for you." Of course, Yi Xiao wanted to curry favor with him in every possible way. If this ambassador could say a few good words in front of the Empress, it would be a great help to the Yi clan. Yu Quan felt that it was beneath him to drink the wine here, and he also wouldn't wait for the so-called auction to start. Voidless Realm's arrival, no matter what you open you will have to stop. However, the situation today was different. The Empress's best friend was present. Perhaps she was here to participate in the auction. He had already been disrespectful just now. If he disturbed her mood again, wouldn't that be adding fuel to the fire? Yu Quan nodded. Then he would wait for the auction to end. Yi Xiao was delighted. It would be great if there was a chance to chat. When the time came he would see what this ambassador needed and he would do his best. "Please follow me, ambassador," Yi Xiao said respectfully. "Just get me a seat over there," said Yu Quan lightly. Yi Xiao looked in the direction of Yu Quan's gaze and saw that he was standing beside the two women. What was going on? Although puzzled, Yi Xiao still hurriedly said, "Ambassador, that place is not suitable for people like you. The Empress' best friend is sitting there. If I sit in the seat you arranged for me, wouldn't that be disrespectful to her? Are you trying to kill me?" "Yi Xiao, since when do I need you to make decisions for me?" Yu Quan questioned coldly. Hearing those words, Yi Xiao's heart sank. He had no idea why the ambassador was so angry. He immediately replied, "I understand. I'll immediately make arrangements for you." Everyone could only see the two of them talking, but they didn't know the content of the conversation. However, they could tell from Yi Xiao's expression that he was terrified. Very quickly, the waiter finished arranging a table and placed it next to Qinya's table. Yu Quan landed on the other side and saw that his table was actually level with the Empress's best friend's table. He almost cursed out loud, "Idiot! Both of you are murderers who want to kill me." You two move the table back. The two guards at the back naturally recognized Qinya, and they almost kneeled down. Fortunately they were stopped by Yu Quan. They immediately moved the table back a bit. At this moment Yu Quan's heart calmed down. He slowly sat down, then waved his hand indicating for the auction to continue. However, Yu Quan's action caused everyone present to be endlessly shocked. Why does even Voidless Realms people want to sit together with that beauty? Just who is that beauty? She really is an enigma. Furthermore, looking at the attitude of that Voidless Realms people, they seem to be very respectful towards her. This is too mystical. Right now Song Huang was a bit dazed. Why did this Voidless Realms ambassador choose to sit together with them? Is he expressing his position? Or is this Voidless Realm trying to express their position? A lot of people thought about it carefully. Indeed, that's the case. Could it be that this woman is from Voidless Realm? Qin Xuanzong was also very surprised. I only heard about Voidless Realm recently and they seem to be very strong. I thought that I should be able to cultivate to Demon Emperor, but I didn't expect that the original world actually changed so much. Xiao Yi and Xu Nan fell into contemplation. The amount of information is too big. Bai Cixin was the same as well. This woman doesn't seem to be simple. On the rostrum, Yi Zhao's expression wasn't very good. After all, he had just been reprimanded by Yu Quan, which gave him a bad impression. However, he was reprimanded for no rhyme or reason. "Brother Yi, what's going on?" This Voidless Realms ambassador's intentions are very strange. Chu He asked in a low voice. This Voidless Realms attitude is too strange. Yi Fan shook his head, expressing that he doesn't know either. Could it be that this old man has taken a fancy to those two women and wants to bring them back to Voidless Realm? Another wicked commoner wants to harm this old man. Looking at Dong Huangli who was in Qinya's embrace, Yu Quan was startled. So the little highness is here too. From the looks of it, the Empress and this bestie of hers have already addressed each other as sisters. If not, why would the Empress be at ease and let her take care of the little highness? Fortunately, I was scanning the entire venue just now. If I didn't scan the entire venue and overlook the little highness, that would be bad. That would be a great crime of disrespect. Chu Bai sat upright at the side, not daring to move in the slightest bit. Never in his dreams did he expect that a big shot from Voidless Realm would be sitting beside him, causing him to feel a bit dizzy. The auction gradually came to an end, and Bai Cixin was clearly a bit nervous. Whether or not Bai Cixin will be able to become an aristocratic family will depend on tonight. Tonight will be the day that Bai family's fate will be decided. Bai Cixin was an ambitious woman, and her goal was not just to become an aristocratic family. Her goal was to become a big shot. Right now, one of the three big shots is missing, so shouldn't there be an aristocratic family that can replace the three big shots? Restore the power of the three big shots? Whether or not the power of the three big shots will be restored, that will depend on Yi Hua. Perhaps, one day when Yi Hua is in a good mood, the power of the three big shots will be restored. If one day when Yi Hua is in a bad mood, the power of the three big shots will be restored. With Voidless Realms ambassador present at the auction, the family heads were clearly excited. The last few auction items all exceeded the original price. Yi Xiao stood up and said with a smile, "Tonight's auction will end here. Now, let's invite Voidless Realms ambassador to announce the North's sixth aristocratic family." Yu Quan didn't walk to the center of the stage and directly stood up. If someone were to observe carefully, Yu Quan would be standing behind Qinya. However, Chu Bai who was at the side was very nervous and neglected this point. Perhaps because of the distance or the angle, other people couldn't see Yi Xiao clearly, and thus no one cared about Yi Xiao. Chapter 330. The whole audience was in an uproar. The Xiao family actually announced their withdrawal at this time. Did he know that he wouldn't be chosen, so he took the initiative to give up to save face, or did he have other motives? The crowd couldn't see through this act tough King Xiao. This wasn't the act tough King Xiao style. Thinking back to the time when he snatched the Shenyuan sword, he was so ruthless that anyone who stood in his way would die. Who would have thought that after the fusion Xiao Yi would become a completely different person? However, this Xiao Yi was even more terrifying. Even if a lion was injured, it was still a lion. Once it recovered, it would still be an overlord. Bai Cixin was also very puzzled. Although the overall strength of the Xiao clan was not as strong as the Bai clan, however, Xiao Yi's own strength was quite strong, so there was still a chance that he would be chosen. Yet he gave up just like that. There was definitely a conspiracy behind this. Bai Cixin furrowed her eyebrows. She had a bad feeling about this. Honey, Xiao Yi's sudden withdrawal is very suspicious, Wang Debao whispered. Bai Cixin sighed heavily. Yeah, he's different from the Xiao Yi I know. He has become more stable and powerful. It seemed like Bai Cixin had to re-evaluate Xiao Yi. But now she was calm. She had obtained the position of an aristocratic family. Qingye and Qing Yutong were also very puzzled. Why did this Xiao Yi suddenly quit? This is a very good opportunity, and right now Yu Quan still hasn't said out his name, but it is still a situation of 50-50. Even if I fail this time, I can still fight for it in the future. However, Qingye still didn't know that it was Yi Hua who gave the order. Would Xiao Yi dare to disobey? Yu Quan looked at Xiao Yi and asked in a deep voice, Xiao Yi, you'd better think it through. If you voluntarily withdraw, you won't have the right to be selected again in the future. Ambassador, I have made up my mind. Xiao Yi's words were very firm. Everyone felt that Xiao Yi had thought about this for a long time, and it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was Yu Quan's first time encountering someone who backed out. This choice was admirable. After all, once one became the head of an aristocratic family, they would be under only one person. Who wouldn't like to stand in the position of an aristocratic family? Gui Qingren, who was sitting beside Tang Wushuang, said indifferently, Damn it, I finished reading it again. This damned author actually dares to bait my appetite. Teacher, disciple has caught it for you, Tang Wushuang said respectfully. Gui Qingren nodded his head. Break their legs after capturing them, lock them in a small black room and feed them 1 meal a day. All right. After keeping his phone, Gui Qingren looked towards Voidless Realm's Yu Quan and asked, Is that person from Voidless Realm? That's right, master. Tang Wushuang's gaze was filled with envy. If I also have an ancient godly item, I can also go and fight for it. Gui Qingren paused and asked, That Xiao Yi just said that he quit? Yes. Tang Wushuang was very puzzled. Since you don't plan to fight for it anymore, why didn't you give me the Shen Yuan sword back then? After all, this is the ticket for me to enter the aristocratic family. Do you want to make a bet with the Bai family? Gui Qingren put away his frivolous expression and asked seriously. Tang Wushuang was stupefied for a moment, but soon after, his eyes lit up. Could it be that master is planning to do that? Your disciple is willing to bet on it. Gui Qingren smiled and patted on Tang Wushuang's shoulder. The dagger that had pierced Xiao Yi back then appeared. Master, didn't you say that this ancient godly item is borrowed? Tang Wushuang exclaimed in admiration. Gui Qingren chuckled. Silly disciple, whose ancient divine instrument would be casually borrowed? That's true, ancient godly items are viewed as treasures by aristocratic families. How can it be possible for them to casually borrow it? However, Master actually possesses an ancient godly item. Why didn't he establish his own family? Furthermore, with Master's strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to become an aristocratic family? Why did he help me? Strange, this is too strange. Wushuang, Master can only help you to this extent, the rest is up to you. Gui Qingren's gaze was deep. Only he himself knew what his motive was. Tang Wushuang took over the ancient godly item and said sincerely, Disciple will never forget Master's kindness towards disciple. Very good, I hope that you will remember what you said in the future. Yes. Right now, Tang Wushuang was indeed very grateful to Master. If not for Master, I would have already lost my fighting spirit and muddle-headedly lived the rest of my life. Right now, not only did Master teach me the technique, Master even gave me the right to fight for the Bai family. Master's kindness is too big. But Master, is it too urgent to say it now? Tang Wushuang was a bit worried. After all, the reason why Voidless Realm came over today was to announce the result of the competition. Gui Qingren unlocked his phone and began searching for other novels on QQ. As long as there is an ancient godly item, before the aristocratic family is selected, anyone can join the competition. Hearing what Master said, Tang Wushuang felt a lot more at ease. My Tang family will definitely rise up in my hands. After hearing Xiao Yi's affirmation, Yu Quan let out a breath of relief and said, Since Xiao family has withdrawn from the competition, then the 6th aristocratic family in the north will be. Right now, before Yu Quan could finish speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. My Tang family wants to join the aristocratic family selection. Yu Quan wrinkled his brows and looked towards Tang Wushuang, who stood up. At this moment, Qingye and Qing Yutong also looked towards Tang Wushuang. This situation changed too quickly. Xiao Yi withdrew from the competition, and Tang family, who doesn't have an ancient godly item, actually dares to say such a thing. If it was in the past, Qinya might have been shocked. After all, these were all big families and aristocratic families. However, it was different now. This was all thanks to Yi Hua. If not for Yi Hua's appearance, so many things wouldn't have happened to Qinya, and she wouldn't even be able to step into the circle of aristocratic families. Thinking about it, there are still many changes. Yi Xiao and Chu He, who were on the rostrum, stood up at the same time. Both of them were shocked by this sudden turn of events. The one who was even more shocked was Bai Cixin. Just as I was about to obtain the position of an aristocratic family master, another variable actually appeared. Xiao Yi also looked towards Tang Wushuang in disbelief. Did this guy go crazy from thinking about becoming an aristocratic family? He actually dares to say such a thing without an ancient godly item. Even without me making a move, Voidless Realms people will naturally get rid of Tang Wushuang. Meanwhile, all of the family masters who were present were also shocked. This Tang Wushuang is really courting death, to actually dare to boast in front of Voidless Realms people. Doesn't he know that this is a crime that will result in the extermination of one's family? Wang Debao felt that he was going to explode from anger. It wasn't easy for me to get my hands on an ancient godly item, and it wasn't easy for me to wait until this moment. Wang Debao immediately jumped up and shouted out towards Tang Wushuang, "Tang Wushuang, you idiot, do you even have an ancient godly item? Do you know the consequences of deceiving Voidless Realm?" Tang Wushuang looked towards Wang Debao coldly. "When did a southerner have the right to butt into my north's big matter?" "You." Wang Debao was actually speechless. If this Tang Wushuang dares to speak such arrogant words, then what awaits us is Voidless Realm's destruction. After all, this is Voidless Realm's rule. "Tang Wushuang, do you know?" Before Yu Quan could finish speaking, Tang Wushuang knelt on the ground and held onto the ancient godly item with both of his hands. The aura of an ancient godly item swept out, causing everyone present to be dumbstruck. When did this Tang Wushuang get an ancient godly item? Bai Cixin clenched her fist tightly, and when Xiao Yi saw that dagger, faint killing intent emitted out from his entire body. Qin Xuanzong sized up the relationship between these people. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. Right now, Song Huang no longer had the mood to look at these things. Yu Quan waved his hand, and the ancient godly item in Tang Wushuang's hand slowly floated over. However, when he saw the dagger, Yu Quan's gaze focused. This is actually the ancient godly item that was lost 100 years ago, Piercing Tomb. Chapter 331. Towards this sudden change, all of the family heads remained silent. However, to be able to see the appearance of an ancient godly item, they were still very excited. Tonight, not only did they see Voidless Realms people, they were also fortunate enough to see an ancient godly item. This trip was not made in vain. Right now, even Yi Xiao and Chu He revealed a shocked expression. When did this Tang Wushuang get his hands on an ancient godly item? Furthermore, he chose to participate in the election at this time. Isn't this slapping Bai family's face? Originally, the position of an aristocratic family was already in Bai family's pocket, but in just a second, it was destroyed by Tang family. Bai Cixin reckoned that he might even have the heart to kill someone. Yu Quan looked at the ancient godly item in his hand and his expression became gloomy. This ancient godly item can be counted as the lost evidence, but over 100 years had passed since then, who knows how many times it had changed hands. After all, from a fair point of view, this was something that other people obtained with great difficulty, and they can't be stripped of their qualifications just because of something that happened 100 years ago. "Old Chu, don't you feel that this dagger looks very familiar?" Yi Zhao's expression was gloomy as he stared fixedly at the dagger in Yu Quan's hand. Chu He had the same feeling as well. Hearing what Yi Xiao said, Chu He said gravely, "Could this be that dagger? If I didn't guess wrongly, this is Dongfang family's missing dagger, Piercing Tomb." Yi Xiao wrinkled his brows. Things have become strange. How did Tang family get Dongfang family's ancient godly item? Could Tang Wushuang be a descendant of Dongfang family? Chu He cried out in surprise. Yi Xiao shook his head, then looked at Gui Qingren who was beside Tang Wushuang. "I feel that the man wearing flowery shorts looks a bit like him. But back then all of the males in Dongfang family were executed, even the infants were executed." Yi Xiao laughed lightly. "Did you see it?" Chu He's expression stiffened. The one who executed the assassination was Voidless Realm's people, and only Voidless Realm would know whether or not the assassination was cleaned up. Furthermore, back then losing Piercing Tomb is definitely Dongfang family's scheme. They want to regain their title and they might even look for evidence. Framing an aristocratic family is also a huge crime. Hearing Yi Zhao's deduction, He felt a sense of crisis. It seems like the appearance of this dagger is to deal with the 5 aristocratic families in the north. Right now Bai Cixin was already unable to sit still anymore. Slowly she stood up and said, "Respected Voidless Realms ambassador, isn't participating in the election against the rules?" The crowd whispered to each other after hearing this. The results were about to be announced, so suddenly interrupting seemed to be against the rules. However, there were no rules that said that this could not be done during the announcement of the results. In any case, Voidless Realm is the one who has the final say. After all, Voidless Realm is a big power. Everyone was waiting for Yu Quan's answer. The future of these 2 families was in the hands of this old man. With regards to Voidless Realm's internal affairs, Qinya didn't get involved. After all, it was Baiji's matter, and if she were to rashly get involved, Baiji might think too much into it. Family harmony was more important. Therefore, not speaking was the best outcome. Tang Wushuang, where did this ancient godly item come from? Yu Quan didn't directly tell Tang Wushuang the answer, and instead he inquired about the origin of this ancient godly item. Tang Wushuang replied respectfully, replying to Ambassador, "I obtained this ancient godly item by chance from an unremarkable antique shop." An antique shop. All the patriarchs could no longer remain calm. Was there such a thing? This was the easiest way to obtain it in history. The patriarchs felt that they should go and try their luck. Perhaps they might be able to pick up some leftovers, and when the time comes, they would have a meteoric rise. Yu Quan let out a light sigh. "I can't make the decision for this kind of matter, and I still have to report it to the Empress." After keeping the tomb properly, Yu Quan said gravely, "This matter is of great importance. This ancient godly item will be temporarily kept for safekeeping, and the Empress will decide what to do with it." Tang Wushuang bowed down and shouted, "Thank you, Ambassador." "Thank you, Empress." Regarding handing over the ancient godly item to Voidless Realm for safekeeping, Tang Wushuang didn't have anything to worry about. After all, Voidless Realm wouldn't lose its prestige just because of an ancient godly item. "Ambassador." Bai Cixin was in disbelief. She lost her composure and cried out in surprise. Yu Quan said faintly, "Bai Cixin, are you planning to openly go against Voidless Realm's rules?" The latter's body trembled, and a feeling of powerlessness emerged from the bottom of her feet. "I don't dare." Bai Cixin slowly spat out 2 words. However, only Wang Debao, who was at the side, knew that right now, his wife was already on the verge of going berserk. Towards a huge being like Voidless Realm, no one dared to go against it and could only listen to it unconditionally. Even the current Yi Xiao and Chu He could only lower their heads and listen to it. Yu Quan had to go back and hold a meeting. After bidding farewell to Qinya, the 3 of them stepped into the void and disappeared. After Yu Quan left, everyone let out a sigh of relief. After all, with the people from Voidless Realm present, they felt a lot of pressure. However, the killing intent that was being emitted out from the people from Bai family was still present at the scene. From the looks of it, Bai family and Tang family are going to start a fight. Right now, Xiao Yi's entire body was relaxed, as if he had returned back to the state of being an immortal emperor. "It seems like after my reincarnation my state of mind was too impetuous. I no longer have that steadiness that I had back then. It might be a good thing for me to withdraw from the selection. Today's auction will end here." After finished speaking, Yi Xiao left with a heavy heart. The scandal that happened back then must not be exposed. Chu He understood this point as well. This Tang family must be eliminated. Meanwhile, Qin Xuanzong was preparing to pay a visit to Tang Wushuang. Song Huang stared at Qinya and Qin Yutong. "All of my spirit stones are gone. Even if the 2 of you want to sell yourself, you still have to return those spirit stones to me." However, when Song Huang looked at Chu Bai, who was standing behind Qinya, Song Huang felt that he should look for some helpers. Furthermore, the helpers should be the kind of helpers that could persuade Chu Bai to give up. Suddenly, a candidate appeared in his mind. Chu Bai should be willing to give him face, and he should be able to offer a high price. 1 woman was worth at least 50 spirit stones, 2 would be worth 100 spirit stones. He was about to break through, so he had to get it back. Thinking about it, he picked up his phone and made a call. After which, a look of joy appeared on his face. He didn't expect him to be in Yuan Linglong, just that he didn't appear. Song Huang hurriedly left to look for Song Huang. This person's name was Yi Tai, and he was Yi Zhao's eldest son. He was a playboy by nature, and he could not be without women. Even so, his strength was not to be underestimated. After all, he was the eldest son of the Yi family. Song Huang came to a resting room in Yuan Linglong's side hall and knocked on the door. Come in. A man's low voice came from inside. Song Huang pushed open the door and entered the living room. There was no one in the living room, but there were sounds of moaning coming from the bedroom. Song Huang let out a breath, then sat on the sofa and silently waited. After quite a while, a tall and sturdy man who was wearing a nightgown walked out of the bedroom. The man's face was calm, and he didn't seem like the kind of person who indulged in debauchery. Song Huang had interacted with Yi Tai before. This Yi Tai was a person who was calm and reserved, but deep down he liked women. Those who didn't know would think that he was a young and promising son of an aristocratic family. Different from Chu Bai, Yi Tai would snatch whatever he liked without any bottom line. Chapter 332. Young Master Yi, it seems like you are still as majestic as ever. Song Huang was neither servile nor overbearing. After all, he was here to make a deal. Yi Tai smiled faintly and lit up his cigar. Sacred Dr. Song, let's get back to the main topic. Are you telling the truth? Of course, it is a pity that young Master Yi did not go out to take a look. Hee, a boring auction, what is there to see? Yi Tai and his father came at the same time, and Yi Tai just casually grabbed a woman who looked good. Yi Xiao knew his son's character, which was why he told Chu He that his son only knew how to indulge in debauchery. Song Huang didn't waste any time and directly stated his price. Young Master Yi, of course I will not introduce a woman for nothing. 50 spirit stones for one woman. 50? Sacred Dr. Song sure is arrogant. Yi Tai was a bit dissatisfied and raised his voice slightly. Song Huang insisted on the price in his heart. Young Master Yi will naturally understand after you take a look. However, there is a Chu Bai who is following beside them. Chu Bai? The man who likes to make others wear green hats? That's right, as long as you make Chu Bai back off, young Master Ye's luck will be boundless. Yi Tai laughed lightly. This Chu Bai will naturally give me face, that's fine. I will go and take a look. Sacred Dr. Song, don't lie to me. Although you are famous, I'm not that easy to fool. Of course. A trace of viciousness flashed past Song Huang's eyes. I can bring back the dead with my left hand, and I can make people suffer with my right hand. Even your father has to be polite when he sees me. On the other side, Qin Ye carried Dong Huangli, who was sleeping soundly and prepared to leave the auction. Qin Yutong, who was following beside Dong Huangli, was dizzy. Chu Bai, who was at the back, wanted to go over and support Dong Huangli, but he didn't dare to. His intuition told him that if he were to touch Dong Huangli, he would definitely die. The few of them walked across the stone bridge, and the other patriarchs left one after another with joy in their eyes. They had seen the world tonight. You can leave now, Qin Ye said faintly. This sentence was said to Chu Bai, who was behind her, but the latter was thinking about other things and didn't pay attention to it. Qin Yutong said dizzily, Brat, you can leave now. If I continue to follow you, I will be finished. Chu Bai reacted quickly and opened his folding fan. After all, his chance had come. Miss Qin, I am your little brother, so of course I have to follow my big brother's footsteps. Besides, this place is very far from the city, so let me send you off to ensure your safety. This is what a little brother should do, Chu Bai said politely as he waved his fan. His words were quite reasonable. The two sisters had sat in Song Huang's car, and right now, Song Huang definitely wouldn't be kind enough to send them back. Of course, Qin Ye was also able to instantly teleport back to Qin Ye's house. However, Qin Ye, who wanted to live an ordinary life, unless it was absolutely necessary, she didn't want to use her strength recklessly. Seeing that Qin Ye and Qin Yutong did not speak, that meant that they had tacitly agreed to it. Chu Bai said with a smile, Two sirs, please wait for a moment, I will drive the car over right away. Looking at her little sister's dizzy appearance, Qin Ye shook her head. If you continue to drink a little more, you will be prepared to be picked up by others. After a while, a Mercedes-Benz G-Class drove over, and Chu Bai opened the door like a gentleman. Qin Ye said thank you, then immediately got on the car. Chu Bai didn't expect that Qin Ye would be so courteous. Qin Ye sure is a gentle woman. This kind of woman is very rare in this world. According to the address provided by Qin Ye, Chu Bai set up the GPS and drove on the small road. Are you sure that this is the road? Qin Ye asked doubtfully. When they came over, this road was smooth and stable, but now, this road is very bad. Chu Bai was also very gloomy. The GPS arranged this way, it might be a shortcut. It was indeed a shortcut, but it had been a very long time since anyone took this shortcut. However, this also gave Yi Tai and Song Huang an opportunity. Suddenly the car came to an abrupt stop. Qin Ye hurriedly stabilized the car, and Ali almost kowtowed to the ground. Meanwhile, Qin Yutong directly knocked into the front seat, and right now she was rubbing her head and preparing to flip out. This driver's license must have been picked up from the ground, right? What are you braking for? Qingya asked gravely. Chu Bai pointed to the front of the car and said, there are two people blocking the road in front. Qingya and Qin Yutong took a look, and indeed there were two people blocking the road, and one of them was even Song Huang. Big sister, there is trouble. Qin Yutong shook her head. Qingya sighed. This Song Huang is indeed not a good person. Now that he is blocking the road, it can be well imagined. The three got off the car. Song Huang said to Yi Tai, who was beside him, young Master Yi, is it worth it? Yi Tai stared fixedly at Qingya and Qin Yutong. I didn't expect that there would be such beautiful women in this world. If I had them, what would other women do for me? They would all just serve as foils. It's worth it. Yi Tai's tone was filled with excitement, and his gaze was flickering with greed. I have to get these two women in the future. I don't have to look for other women at all. Chu Bai opened his folding fan and said with a smile, and here I was wondering who it was. Yi Tai, Song Huang. Young Master Chu, it has been a few years since we last met, and you are still as elegant as ever. Yi Tai greeted with a smile as well. However, Qingya felt that the two of them did not have good intentions, and she even felt that this Chu Bai was in cahoots with them, because he was the one who drove the car here. Chu Bai had a calm expression on his face. Young Master Yi, why did you suddenly change to blocking a robbery? Furthermore, you even teamed up with Sage Doctor TSK. Yi Tai stretched out his hand and touched his forehead. What's so good about hanging out in a bar? With the two women behind you, in the future, Yi will become an otaku. Hearing what Yi Tai said, Qingya and Qin Yutong's beautiful eyes froze. Chu Bai did not cower in the slightest. Young Master Yi, this is a noble wish of yours. I advise you to go home and wash up, don't embarrass yourself. Chu Bai. If you leave right now, we will treat it as if nothing happened. How about it? I will also give you a big gift. Chu Bai's expression slightly changed. Seems like they came here today with the intention to cause trouble. However, this is good as well. It will give me the chance to be a hero and save the two beauties. Yi Tai, what kind of person do you think I, Chu Bai, am? I will say it here today. If you want to touch them, you have to ask me first. Chu Bai closed his folding fan and said those bold words. He thought to himself that the two beauties behind him would definitely be touched. However, Qingya and Qin Yutong both treated Chu Bai as a suspect, and they were not touched at all. Right now, Song Huang only wanted to get back his spirit stones, and he did not care about anything else. Compared to beauties, Song Huang cared more about strength. Yi Tai snorted coldly. Chu Bai, are you trying to ruin the relationship between the Yi and Chu families? Yi Tai, to think that you would dare to forcefully kidnap women. If it wasn't for your father, you would have been king executed long ago. Yi Tai let out a heavy sigh. Since young Master Chu is not willing to let me, then I can only let you die here. You dare to kill me? Chu Bai was a little surprised. I didn't expect that this Yi Tai would actually be so ruthless for the sake of beauties. Song Huang, who was at the side, was also a little stupefied. Killing the son of an aristocratic family, if others were to find out about this, I would definitely be done for. Yi Tai clenched both of his fists tightly, and a dense amount of spiritual energy emerged from his body. With a leap, he fiercely attacked towards Chu Bai's head. Chapter 333. Chu Bai was also shocked. He didn't expect Yi Tai to be so freakish. Big sister, they don't seem to be acting right? Qin Yutong said in a low voice. Qingya nodded her head. Indeed, it doesn't look like it. Chu Bai shouted to the people behind him, all of you, leave this place quickly. After he finished speaking, a powerful spiritual energy surged out from his fist. His fist gave off a white glow as it clashed with Yi Tai. Bang! A wave of air spread out, and all the windows of the Mercedes-Benz G-Class were shattered. Song Huang. What are you standing there for? Come and help. Yi Tai shouted at Song Huang. The strength of this Chu Bai was extraordinary. Yi Tai and Song Huang were evenly matched. But with Song Huang's help, they would be able to suppress Chu Bai. Song Huang couldn't make up his mind. If he were to help Yi Futian, the consequences would be unimaginable. He wouldn't be able to bear the crime of killing a descendant of an aristocratic family. Song Huang. You are also an accomplice now. Yi Tai turned around and shouted angrily. The Saint Doctor was as timid as a mouse. Song Huang cursed them for being shameless. They were all shameless people, and they were willing to risk everything for the sake of spirit stones. Chu Bai protected Qingya and Qing Yutong. This is the time for me to act cool. Miss Qing, don't worry. As long as I, Chu Bai, am here, they won't be able to harm a single hair on your head. After saying that, he shot out, thinking that his back view would definitely be very charming, and they would probably be stunned by it. Qing Yutong let out a sigh. This Chu Bai can't win against him, yet he is still sending himself to death. He is just doing this out of goodwill. Qingya said faintly. Chu Bai had to deal with two of them by himself. The disadvantage was very clear, and wounds instantly appeared on his body. This Yi Tai came in the open, and this Song Huang actually dared to use poison needles. He was simply shameless. Chu Bai. If you end your own life, I will give you an intact corpse. Yi Tai shouted arrogantly. They had already fought to this extent, so he could only kill. Chu Bai angrily shouted, as long as I, Chu Bai, am here, the two of you can forget about hurting the two Miss Qing. Humph, then I'll let you be a playboy. Yi Tai shouted coldly. He clenched his fists together and shouted, Sealing Fist. Meanwhile, Song Huang also appeared behind Chu Bai at the same time, and he shouted in an eerie voice, Soul-chilling ice needle. Facing a pincer attack from the front and back, Chu Bai frowned. He used a strange movement technique to escape, but in the end he was still too slow and was hit by their moves. Chu Bai spat out a mouthful of blood. The spiritual energy in his body had been temporarily sealed by that punch, and the soul-freezing chill was eroding his internal organs. He was going to lose his life on the spot today. There are still many young women waiting for me to rescue. However, even if he had to die, he had to put on an act. At the very least, he had to leave an indelible impression in the heart of the beauty. I'll stall for time. You guys leave quickly. Chu Bai stood in front of the two women, slightly bowing his body. His suit was in tatters and blood kept gushing out of his mouth. Without waiting for Qingya to reply, Yi Tai and Song Huang walked over slowly. Both of them had different expressions on their faces. Yi Tai had an excited look on his face, while Song Huang had an anxious look on his face. Chu Bai, why are you doing this? Let's mind our own business. Is it worth it for two women? Yi Tai's words were full of mockery. However, when he thought about how he would be able to enjoy these two beauties later, his heart started to beat wildly. Chu Bai spat out a mouthful of bloody phlegm and coldly said, You dare to kill me for them, then I dare to die to protect them. Yi Tai suddenly laughed maniacally. I didn't expect that Chu family's eldest young master was such a righteous young hero. I admire you. Seeing that the two women behind him did not move, Chu Bai turned his head around and shouted out gravely, What are you two still standing there for? Quickly run. They won't be able to run away. Even if you die, I will still be able to get what I want. Yi Tai took out a cigarette and lit it up, admiring Chu Bai's final moments. Sacred Physician Song, do you want a cigarette? No need. Song Huang said gravely. I am truly unlucky tonight. Looking at Yi Tai lighting up the cigarette, Qingya didn't know why, but she felt disgusted. Yi Hua was the only one who could act cool by lighting up the cigarette. Patting onto Song Huang's shoulder, Yi Tai said, Don't worry, you will get 50 yuan each. Qing Yutong was unconvinced and shouted out, Am I only worth 50 yuan? Are you blind? Qingya laughed bitterly. My little sister is still talking about this at this time. Chu Bai almost vomited out another mouthful of blood. Now is not the time to be tangled about 50 yuan. In this sacred physician's eyes, you two are worth 100 yuan, but in my eyes, you two are priceless. Yi Tai said lecherously. His pair of eyes kept moving back and forth between Qingya and Qing Yutong's body. Qing Yutong shouted out, Then I will beat the two of you into 100 yuan today. Let me do it. Qingya said faintly. Big sister. Be obedient. Qing Yutong sighed and leaned against the door of the car angrily. Qingya hugged onto Dong Huangli and said lightly, The two of you are very daring. Yi Tai said with a hint of playfulness, Miss, I even dared to kill the son of an aristocratic family. How daring do you think I am? Do you know who my husband is? Qingya said with a slight smile. I feel that using the name of my husband makes me very happy. Your husband. I only know that your husband is an idiot for not touching a beauty and letting you come out in the middle of the night. Just after Yi Tai finished speaking, he suddenly felt a pain in his head, and a terrifying aura spread out from his heart. This kind of feeling only lasted for a while before disappearing. Qingya and Qing Yutong's expression stiffened. There is actually someone who dares to scold Yi Hua as an idiot. Qing Yutong has already regarded them as corpses, there is nothing much to say. This is the first time someone scolded brother-in-law. Qinya stared at Yi Tai with her beautiful eyes. To actually dare to scold my husband, you must be tired of living. Beauty, you can be at ease, follow me, I will definitely not let you get off the bed. After speaking, Yi Tai laughed with a wretched look on his face. Chu Bai was already becoming weaker and weaker, and it seemed like he would faint at any moment. Qinya slowly stretched out her hand, and a green halo appeared on her palm, which immediately wrapped around Chu Bai. Meanwhile, Chu Bai could feel that the life force within his body was quickly recovering, just like a little bean sprout that was sprouting. Not bad, and it is even a female cultivator. Yi Tai became even more fond of Chu Bai. Song Huang faintly felt that the situation was bad. As a sage doctor, he knew that Chu Bai was a half-dead person, and right now Chu Bai was recovering at an extremely fast speed. Move back. Qinya said calmly to Chu Bai, and the aura of her bloodline gradually spread out. However, not only did Yi Tai not retreat, he wanted to own her even more. This was a top-grade woman. He was exuding an arrogant aura from head to toe. It would be such a pleasant thing to be pressed under him. Chu Bai stood up, an awkward expression on his face. He had originally wanted to be the hero saving the beauty, but who would have thought that he would be saved by the beauty instead? This was too embarrassing. Song Huang, go. Yi Tai shouted. Right now, Song Huang couldn't care so much anymore. The two of them immediately burst forth with astonishing spiritual energy. The surging aura swept through the surroundings, causing the trees to sway violently, as if there was a level 8 or 9 typhoon. Fiery fist. Flying dragon silk. A huge pressure surged towards the three of them. Yi Tai's entire body turned into a fiery fist, whizzing towards them. Song Huang followed closely behind. He turned his chi into threads and transformed them into the shape of a dragon. As he flew through the air, waves of dragon roars could be heard. It made people think that the divine dragon was born. The scene was filled with a terrifying atmosphere. Spiritual chi surged in all directions, and a piercingly cold murderous aura blotted out the sky and the earth. They deserved to be the sons of aristocratic families and the holy doctor of the north. Qinya slowly raised her jade-like arm, and her slender and delicate fingers couldn't help but make people have improper thoughts. Qinya's thumb and middle finger lightly touched together. Chapter 334. With a snap of his fingers, the entire world seemed to have quietened down. What biting cold killing intent, what surging spiritual energy, all of it disappeared completely. Only the two of them were left in the air. Qinya said faintly, "Don't wake Ali up." Chu Bai, who was at the back, had his mouth wide open. At least 20 ham sausages could be inserted into his mouth. With just a snap of his fingers, he was able to take care of the son of an aristocratic family and the sage doctor. If that is the case just now, I have lost face. No. If this beauty was already so powerful, then wouldn't her husband be even more abnormal? Oh my god. Oh my god. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, heaved a sigh of relief. Big sister is starting to act cool again, she really doesn't give me even the slightest bit of chance. In the future, I won't play with big sister anymore. Moreover, big sister even imitated brother-in-law by snapping her fingers. It's amazing to have the power of a bloodline. When brother-in-law is in a good mood, I'll ask brother-in-law to help me obtain a bloodline. Fortunately, the seal on the ring on Qinya's finger was not removed. Otherwise, with the snap of her finger, it would have been even more terrifying. At this moment, Yi Tai and Song Huang could no longer remain calm. The other party had merely snapped his fingers, and their spiritual energy had instantly dissipated. This was impossible. Who exactly are you? Yi Tai asked in a low voice. He no longer had the calmness from before and was now in a state of panic. Qinya said faintly, I'm just an ordinary woman, that's all. I'm just beautiful, rich, and have an adorable husband. Qing Yutong covered her ears. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Big sister is too good at acting cool. Even Chu Bai thought so. Back then, Qinya was such a pure and innocent girl. Ever since she got screwed by Yi Hua, she gradually became depraved and started to like to act cool. Yi Tai and Song Huang struggled with all their might, but it was useless. Do you know who I am? If you dare touch me, you'll be finished. Yi Tai had a look of panic on his face. This woman was so terrifying. He had been in the profession for more than 20 years, and today he had finally stepped on a nail. Qinya waved her hand, and a piece of leaf slowly floated up. I know, you are the son of an aristocratic family and he is a sage doctor. Since you know, why aren't you letting me go? Qinya shouted coldly, "You actually dared to insult my husband just now. You can't avoid death, but you can't escape punishment." Yi Tai stared at Qinya, completely losing the arrogance he had just now. The leaves emitted a green light and instantly attacked the two of them. The green light turned into a flowing shadow and danced in the pitch-black night sky. Shwa shwa shwa. At this moment, the leaves were like sharp blades, cutting open wounds on their bodies. The blood-curdling screams were deafening, and the bone-deep wounds made one's hair stand on end. "Qinya, stop. I just saved your grandma." Song Huang endured the pain and shouted out. The leaves stopped falling. There was not a single layer of stain on them, which showed how fast they were moving. "Heroine, I won't do it again. I won't dare to do it again. Please spare my life." Yi Tai admitted defeat. This kind of torture was too painful. He might as well give himself a quick death. Chu Bai also whispered, "Miss Qin, killing Yi Tai will be troublesome." Qinya slightly wrinkled her brows. "My parents are still in the north, and in the end I am following Yi Hua, so I can't stay by their side for a long time. If I were to kill this person, it would be very troublesome for Yi family to investigate this matter, unless I exterminate Yi family." He couldn't be exterminated. The Yi family only had this scum, so the family shouldn't be implicated. Right now, Qinya was affected by Nuwa's bloodline and couldn't bear to be ruthless. Looking at Yi Tai, Qinya said faintly, "If you still dare to forcefully kidnap women in the future, I will definitely not let you off easily. Heroine, be at ease, I won't dare to do bad things anymore." Right now, other than begging for mercy, Yi Tai would agree to any condition. Qinya's beautiful eyes looked towards Song Huang. This was a death stare that came from Qinya. Song Huang's heart trembled and he didn't dare to raise his head. Let's go home." Qinya let out a breath. "This is the only way." Qin Yutong cried out in surprise, "Big sister, you are letting them go just like that?" "They are going to." "All right, Yutong, let's go home." Qinya said tenderly, then patted onto her little sister's shoulder, then sat on the car. Qin Yutong looked towards the two people in the sky. This is also big sister's benevolence. If it was me, I would definitely cut the two of you into 100 pieces today. Chu Bai continued to be the driver and returned home. However, his heart was unable to calm down for a long time. The two women behind me are too scary to the point that it makes one's hair stand on end. Yi Tai and Song Huang were still hanging in the sky like kites. After quite a while, Yi Tai and Song Huang fell heavily onto the ground. Looking at the wounds on Yi Tai and Song Huang's body, although they were all superficial wounds, they still couldn't stop complaining. "Song Huang, how dare you? You actually dared to trick me." Yi Tai shouted out angrily towards Song Huang. Originally he was having fun playing with women and suddenly he received a phone call saying that there were high-quality women. That's right. High-quality women, high to the point that I can't afford to mess with them. Song Huang didn't expect that these two women had hidden themselves so deeply. "Yi Tai, how would I know that they have this kind of strength? Damn it, I have been tricked so badly by you. I didn't manage to get a woman, I even got injured and my reputation has also been ruined." Yi Tai fiercely punched Song Huang. "My spirit stones?" Song Huang asked probingly. Yi Tai looked at Song Huang and laughed out, "With such a pig-like teammate like you, you still dare to ask me for spirit stones. Do you still have any face left?" "Yi Tai, you are the one who is useless and you can't blame me for not being able to get a woman? Don't you know that I also took a risk with you?" "You took a risk? I was having fun playing with women, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have ended up like this." When that Chu Bai said that, where should I put my face? The more Yi Tai spoke, the angrier he got. Yi Tai, who had his spirit energy dissipated, actually punched towards Song Huang's face. Song Huang dodged the punch and said coldly, "Yi Tai, I can forget about the 100 spirit stones, but you have to give me those 50 spirit stones. Consider it as compensation for mental damage." 50 spirit stones? I won't give you even a single spirit stone." After speaking, the two of them had a feeling that they were ready to fight. After quite a while, the two of them didn't seem to be fighting, it was a bit awkward. Because both of them had injuries on their bodies, it was too painful. Just who is this woman's man? Yi Tai couldn't hold on anymore and sat on the ground. The spirit energy within his body was slowly recovering. Song Huang was the same as well. He said, "I don't know, but he seems to be someone important." "Then, how did you know about them?" "I was treating my illness at their house today, so I brought them out to play. I didn't expect that I would be tricked by them for spirit stones." Yi Tai sneered, You were tricked by them and now you are here to trick me. Well done, Song Huang, I will remember you. You don't have the ability and yet you blame others. You have the ability? Didn't you still end up being played by those two women? After speaking, the two of them started cursing at each other again. As they cursed at each other, their wounds were affected, and it was so painful that tears started flowing out of their eyes. This time, the two of them didn't speak anymore and focused on recovering their spirit energy. After all, right now, whoever recovered their spirit energy first would have the upper hand. A light breeze blew past, and Song Huang, who was sitting cross-legged, wrinkled his brows. Why is there a smell of smoke in the air? Yitai, are you smoking? Song Huang asked coldly. Yitai shouted out coldly, Smoke your sister, do you think I have the mood to smoke? Then why is there a smell of smoke in the air? Song Huang asked confusedly. Yitai sniffed and he seems to have indeed smelled the smell of smoke. Where did this smell of smoke come from? The two of them looked around and suddenly, their attention was attracted by a red dot. That red dot should be a cigarette butt. There is actually someone smoking in that forest. Chapter 335. Yitai and Song Huang's expressions tensed up, and they slowly stood up. Yitai looked at the black shadow and shouted, Who is playing tricks over there? Get out here right now. Song Huang didn't say anything. He just stared at them. A figure slowly walked out from the forest, smoking a cigarette. The two of them sized up the man. He had a calm demeanor, was smoking and was wearing a silk nightgown with floral patterns. On his feet was a pair of sociopathic slippers. Who are you? Song Huang asked in a low voice. He took a puff of his cigarette and said, I am the idiot that all of you are talking about. That's right. This person was precisely Yi Hua. In actuality, Yi Hua had already sensed Dong Huang Li's call for help. After leaving behind a mirror image on the bed, Yi Hua appeared at the scene. I really want to see who dares to provoke my child. Who knew that Ali was completely fine. He was just competing with someone in poetry, and his subordinates were helping Ali cheat. Cheating in games was one thing, but cheating and bullying others was definitely not allowed. He had to properly teach Ali that cheating was not allowed. However, Ali did not embarrass herself. She still had to praise what she deserved. Yi Hua decided that he might as well continue to stay. He saw that Xiao Yi's overall performance was not bad, and he knew how to conduct himself. Of course, when Yi Hua saw Qin Xuanzong, he immediately wanted to kill Qin Xuanzong. However, Qin Ye's attitude made Yi Hua very happy, and thus Yi Hua didn't kill Qin Xuanzong. During the auction, Yi Hua also discovered something interesting. Initially, I thought that with Xiao Yi's withdrawal, my family would naturally be able to obtain the position of an aristocratic family, but I didn't expect that Tang family would suddenly appear out of nowhere. However, this was not the main point. It seemed that there was a story behind the Tang family's dagger. It would be better to ask Baiji about it. Things had become very interesting. Initially, Yi Hua wanted to come back directly, but Yi Hua was a little worried. Thus he followed behind Yi Hua. Sure enough, something happened. Then he quietly stood at the side and watched his wife act cool. Qin Ye's words made Yi Hua feel very happy. She called Yi Hua hubby, so sweetly. When she was at home, she didn't have this kind of attitude. She would call Yi Hua, and when she was acting coquettishly, she would call Yi Hua hubby. However, Qin Ye was still not decisive enough. There was no need to keep this kind of people because their nature would never change. If you let them off once, they would think of ways to continue harassing you. The trouble would not stop. More importantly, these two people actually dared to insult my lovely wife and sister-in-law. This sin even the heavens will not forgive. You even dared to call me an idiot. Since Qin Ye is merciful and doesn't want to make a move, then let me do it for her. This was just like how the wife would let the man go, and the man would follow behind and kill the man. Hearing Yi Hua's words, the two were puzzled for a moment, and Yi Tai said in surprise, You are Qin Ye's husband. I, the Supreme Overlord, am naturally her man, and only such an outstanding man like me is worthy of her. Yi Hua breathed out a mouthful of smoke, and an extraordinary aura was being emitted from his entire body. The air of narcissism. Yi Tai and Song Huang also sensed an aura of arrogance coming from Yi Tai. No wonder that woman's arrogance was so high. Yi Tai and Song Huang's emotions were all led astray by Yi Tai. What do you want? Song Huang asked coldly. Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette butt in his hand. What do I want? Don't you stupid humans know what's going on? The two of them slowly retreated. Yi Tai hurriedly said, Your wife just let us go. You can't go back on your words. In my home, my words are the heavens and they don't count. Yi Hua said faintly. He wanted to light up another cigarette, but in the end he wasn't able to. Donghuang Baiji had restricted his movements. Seeing Yi Hua's actions, Yi Tai immediately took out the cigarette that he was carrying. Big brother, please smoke. Not bad, you know how to conduct yourself. Yi Hua stuffed the cigarette into his pajamas, then took out a cigarette and lit it up. After taking a puff of the cigarette, Yi Hua immediately wrinkled his brows and looked at the brand. I, the Supreme Overlord, still prefer to smoke Farong King. Therefore you cannot escape from your sins. Yi Hua silently took a puff of the cigarette. The taste is not bad, just that it is a bit expensive. Right now, my finances are being controlled by my wives, and I only get 100 RMB per day. I can't afford to smoke it. This fellow actually dared to show off in front of me. This is unforgivable. Yi Tai and Song Huang were smart people. Qin Ye is already so formidable as her husband, wouldn't he be even more monstrous? Big brother, I really didn't do it on purpose, it was all his idea that gave me. I was just hot-headed, that's why I did such a foolish thing. Yi Tai pointed at Song Huang and shouted out. Song Huang was also unwilling to give up. Yi Tai, I didn't force you to come, you were the one who wanted to come. Yi Hua waved his hand and said faintly, all right, stop fighting, just enjoy your final moments in this world. Yi Tai shook his head. I'm still young, I don't want to die. You can't kill me, I am the son of an aristocratic family. If you kill me, my father won't let you off, Voidless Realm won't let you off as well. Yi Tai couldn't help but threaten Yi Hua. Right now, this is the only way for me to survive. Yi Hua let out a breath, then said faintly, I forgot to tell you too, I still have a wife, her name is Donghuang Baiji, and she is precisely your empress. Just now, I was even hugging her to sleep. Yi Tai and Song Huang opened their eyes wide, their faces filled with disbelief. How can the empress be this man's woman? Therefore don't use your small Yi family to threaten me. With just a flick of my cigarette ash, your Yi family will be annihilated. Yi Hua flicked the cigarette ash and said slowly. Song Huang suddenly recalled what happened tonight. No wonder those people would respect Qin Ye so much. No wonder those people from Voidless Realm want to sit beside that woman. Because even the empress is my woman, and that woman definitely knows the empress. Thinking up to here, Song Huang's entire body felt powerless, as if he was about to collapse. After Yi Hua finished smoking the cigarette, he stepped on the cigarette and extinguished it. All right, are there any other threats? I can destroy all of your threats one by one. Even if the empress is your wife, you still won't be able to dominate the entire cultivation world. There is still Ying family in the south. Yi Tai roared out angrily, wanting to use this method to increase his confidence. However, it was completely useless. Yi Hua said lightly, Ying family's Ying Jingshan is already my subordinate. Do you think that Ying family would rashly attack Voidless Realm? Without my permission, do you think that they would dare to attack Voidless Realm? Looking at how easily Yi Hua described Voidless Realm, Yi Tai didn't want to believe what Yi Hua said, but from the bottom of his heart, he believed what Yi Hua said. This demon. He actually ordered his subordinate to attack Voidless Realm, which is his wife. This demon is simply inhumane. All of your movements are within my grasp. Do you still have any other threats? I will give you a chance to threaten me. Yi Tai's body became unstable and fell onto the ground. All of this is fake. All of this is fake. Right now, Song Huang's head was buzzing. If what this man said is true, then the entire cultivation world is within his grasp. I might as well give you two a piece of news for free. Ji family was exterminated by me. Chapter 336. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. I can only act cool in front of the two salted fishes. When will I be able to say something like this in a big scene? That kind of scene would definitely be very exciting. The two of them thought that they were in control of the entire situation, but in actuality, they were just playthings that I, the Supreme Overlord, was holding on to. I'm really looking forward to that day. I will remember this debt of Yi family first. I am a stingy person, I will slowly settle it with them in the future. Looking at the two lifeless people in front of him, Yi Hua lightly tapped on the ground with his finger, and tree roots could actually be seen growing out of the two's legs. It grew out of the flesh and blood, then stabbed into the ground. Ah! Branches and leaves sprouted from their bodies. These were formed from the blood of their meridians. The pain was unimaginable, but they didn't faint at all. Instead, they could clearly feel it. Yi Hua slowly turned his body around. You all actually dared to touch my woman? I shall bestow upon you the most painful punishment. As Yi Hua's figure disappeared, two trees appeared on the scene. Yi Tai and Song Huang did not die. They looked at the world around them and wanted to let out a blood-curdling scream. However, they could not do so. This was even more painful than death. Furthermore, every time a leaf fell or a branch broke, it would be a cruel torture. After all, the leaves and branches were their flesh and blood. As long as the heavens and earth were not destroyed, they could only watch on. Perhaps if there was a fire, they could be freed. After returning back to the bed, Yi Hua continued to hug onto the empress who was in his embrace, and his hands were lightly rubbing onto her body. Sob, sob, sob. Donghuang Baiji, who was in her sleep, let out a moan. Soon after, she turned over and leaned onto Yi Hua's bosom, then stretched out her hands and hugged onto Yi Hua's body. Looking at the empress, who looked just like a cat, Yi Hua laughed lightly and lightly hugged onto the empress. He gradually fell into a deep sleep. However, tonight Yi Hua had a bad dream because the two women quarreled with him again. How is this possible? Where did they get the courage to quarrel with her? Yi Hua, wake up. Donghuang Baiji's urging voice rang out beside Yi Hua's ears. Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes, and what entered his eyes was the beautiful Donghuang Baiji. The empress actually put on makeup today. With Donghuang Baiji's appearance, even if she did not put on makeup, she would still be extremely beautiful. However, after putting on makeup, although it could not be said to be the icing on the cake, it could still slightly embellish her appearance. However, it had a different kind of flavor and Yi Hua liked it very much. Furthermore, the empress was dressed very stylishly today. She was wearing a floral dress, revealing her pure white jade-like arms. Her jet black hair was tied up behind her head. She was dressed like a married person. Looking at the current Donghuang Baiji, Yi Hua said, "Who are you trying to seduce?" Donghuang Baiji said petulantly, "Isn't it because I'm trying to give you face?" Comfortable. These words sounded comfortable. Without any hesitation, Yi Hua went downstairs, pressed Donghuang Baiji onto the bed and kissed her madly. "My lipstick is ruined." Donghuang Baiji pushed Yi Hua away and said with a red face, "Apply more." With that, he kissed her. Donghuang Baiji gave Yi Hua a sweet kiss, then said, "Stop messing around, something strange happened last night." However, Yi Hua still hugged onto Donghuang Baiji and asked, "What's wrong?" Last night, Voidless Realm was going to announce the 6th aristocratic family in the north. However, a situation occurred, and this situation is rather thorny. Donghuang Baiji also wanted Yi Hua to help her think of an idea. After all, this matter had already happened a long time ago, and after she got a man, Donghuang Baiji's reliance on Yi Hua became a bit too heavy. Yi Hua asked curiously, "What problem?" Donghuang Baiji told Yi Hua about what happened, and Yi Hua finally understood. So it turns out that this ancient godly item is related to a case that happened 100 years ago. Interesting. This is too interesting. I am interested in this Tang family. I shall give you all a chance then, do your best to act in this drama. Baiji, getting this ancient godly item is all fate. Furthermore, this is a matter that happened 100 years ago, we shouldn't let the people of the current generation bear this burden. Donghuang Baiji raised her head and looked towards her husband, then asked tenderly, "Yi Hua, you mean to let Tang family be chosen? Since you all have a rule that as long as a family possesses an ancient godly item, if you don't allow it now, you would be breaking your promise. After that, who would care about the origin of your ancient godly item?" There was nothing wrong with what Yi Hua said. On the surface, he was doing this for Voidless Realm's prestige, but in the dark he was preparing to support Tang family. Donghuang Baiji felt that what Yi Hua said was very reasonable. Voidless Realm cannot break their promise. And I understand. Donghuang Baiji smiled tenderly. "Why aren't you thanking your husband?" Yi Hua lifted onto the empress's chin and said faintly. Donghuang Baiji took a charming look at the man, then pounced onto Yi Hua, looking like she was going to forcefully kiss him. I, the supreme overlord, like such a strong woman. After the warm moment in the morning, the two walked out of the door. Right now, Yi Hua was no longer bound by the crutch, and he looked as if he had completely recovered. Just now, when Yi Hua saw the message that Qinya sent over, he laughed lightly and replied with a "love you." Of course, there was also the video that Qin Yutong sent over. Today was the registration day for Yi Zizi. Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji accompanied Yi Zizi together. Yi Hua was worried that Yi Zizi would cause trouble, and Donghuang Baiji was concerned about Yi Zizi. After all, Yi Zizi was her husband's cousin. Dong dong dong. Yihua knocked on Qin Yutong's door. Dong dong dong. Yihua's brows wrinkled. This Yi Zizi couldn't have run away, right? Yihua directly pushed open the door and entered the room. When he saw Yi Zizi, who was lying on the bed without a care for her image, Yihua let out a sigh of relief. If you run away today, I will spank your butt until it becomes swollen. Yi Zizi was very sad. Yesterday night, when I saw the video that Qin Yutong sent over, I felt very envious. While they are acting cool outside, I have to go and get tortured. I'm not willing to accept this. What time is it now? Why aren't you getting up? Yihua shouted gravely. Donghuang Baiji pulled onto Yihua's arm. She is just a child, what is she shouting for? It is normal for her to sleep late. After finished speaking, Donghuang Baiji went to wake Yi Zizi up. Well, I don't want to wake up, I don't want to go to school, I want to go out and play, I want to play games. Yi Zizi was only pretending to be asleep. Her 4 limbs were slapping the blanket, and half of her spotlessly white butt was revealed. Donghuang Baiji hurriedly covered her butt and said, Zizi, everyone has to go to school. Big cousin has never gone to school before. Yi Zizi said angrily. Wei Chang and the others don't want to go to school, so why do I have to go to school? Yihua's gaze turned cold as he shouted gravely, even if you don't want to go to school today, you still have to go to school today. If not, scram with me. Yi Zizi cried out and hugged onto Donghuang Baiji. Sister-in-law, look at big cousin, he is bullying me again. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes at Yihua. However, since Yihua is playing the bad cop, I will play the good cop. Alright, your big cousin is doing this for your own good. Get up, if not, even sister-in-law will not be able to stop your big cousin. Yi Zizi knew that she wouldn't be able to run away, unless she really scram with Yihua. However, she didn't want to scram with Yihua, and thus she could only go to school. Chapter 337. Yihua walked out of the room, then went to the bar counter and poured himself a cup of wine. Not long after, Donghuang Baiji came out with Yi Zizi, who had a gloomy look on her face. Today Yi Zizi was meticulously dressed up by Donghuang Baiji. Yi Zizi was wearing a pink princess dress, a ponytail that was tied with a big butterfly knot, and she was even wearing a pair of extremely long white socks. These are white silk socks, right? With a pair of pink leather shoes on her feet, she looked like a little princess from a fairy tale, or a character from a two-dimensional world. Seeing that Yihua was secretly drinking wine, Donghuang Baiji advised, don't drink wine on an empty stomach. Yihua kept the wine bottle and hugged onto his wife's waist. Yihua had a look of, this woman is mine, you guys can just go ahead and be envious of her. Yi Zizi was very depressed as she was being held by Donghuang Baiji. My depraved life is going to end soon. In the future, I still have to sleep early and wake up early. To a lazy person like me, this is simply torture. It was still the same Audi A8. The Empress was driving, Yihua was sitting at the side, and Yi Zizi was sitting at the back seat with a face full of melancholy. Yi Zizi was swinging her legs in boredom, and her scarlet red eyes were looking left and right. Give me a dozen of these cute Lolas. Yihua pointed to a fried dough stick stall at the roadside. Baiji, let's stop for breakfast first. Yes. After parking the car, the 3 of them got out to have breakfast. Most people thought that they were a family of 3. The man was handsome, the woman was beautiful, and the child was a lowly. This family's appearance was almost out of the sky. Boss, give me 5 fried dough sticks and 3 bowls of porridge first. Yihua shouted towards the boss. From the looks of it, the boss was also a regular customer. Alright, wait a moment. I'll blow it up for you right away. The 3 sat down. Donghuang Baiji wiped her chopsticks and placed them beside Yihua. When all the fried dough sticks were served, Yihua soaked the fried dough sticks in the congee, then ate it. Yihua felt great. Then he ate a mouthful of pickled vegetables. Donghuang Baiji's table manners were much more elegant, just like Qinya. Yi Zizi was so angry that she couldn't eat any more. You are still throwing a tantrum? Yihua said while looking at Yi Zizi. Big cousin, I can go to school, but I have a request. Yi Zizi pouted and said. What? I want to buy a Ferrari. Yihua. Looking at Yi Zizi's expression, Yihua laughed lightly. Can I buy a plane for you? No, I want a Ferrari. I'll buy you an aircraft carrier. No, I want the Ferrari. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't even have a car, and all of the money that I won was taken by Qinya. I will give you 700 renminbi for your living expenses for a week, and this time when Qinya comes back I will definitely have a family meeting. At the very least I have to give her half of the money that I won. I shouldn't have given all of it to Qinya. Alright, after you finish registering, I will bring you to buy a Ferrari. Yi Hua said faintly. Yi Zizi was delighted. Really? Yi Hua nodded his head. You actually believe my words? You are too young. Donghuang Baiji did not say anything. How could Yi Hua possibly have the money to buy a car? The reason why Donghuang Baiji and I cut off her husband's source of income wasn't because we wanted to save money, we just wanted Yi Hua to go out and have a walk, and not stay at home all day. Yingyu Elementary School was one of the key elementary schools in the city. It was said that the entrance exam questions were very difficult, and even some adults couldn't answer them. Today was the registration day, and there were a lot of parents who brought their children to the school, and all of them were dressed up beautifully. Donghuang Baiji parked the car not far away and the three of them walked over. Yi Hua took out a cigarette and lit it up. Donghuang Baiji asked faintly, Yi Hua, where did you get this cigarette from? I picked it up from the bar counter in the morning. Yi Hua suddenly had an idea. Donghuang Baiji stretched out her hand, and Yi Hua helplessly passed the cigarette to the Empress. You are already preparing to have a child, don't smoke. Donghuang Baiji persuaded. Yi Hua was also very vexed. What does smoking have to do with giving birth to a child? Isn't Ali still smart? This is just a precaution. In my eyes, there is no what if. Yi Hua said disdainfully. Looking at Yi Hua who was smoking, Donghuang Baiji decided not to argue anymore, because the Yi Hua who is smoking, this world is already his. Just like the other parents, the mother was holding on to the child, and the father was sizing up the place. Yi Hua was the same as well. This school is just SOSO. I hope that Yi Zizi will be able to pass the test. The trio attracted a lot of people's attention. This was a combination of good looks. The whole family was so outstanding. A lot of children were looking at Yi Zizi. Such a cute girl, I must chase after her. Following the documents that Lai Gu provided, Yi Hua found the teaching director. This teaching director was very honest and respectfully brought Yi Hua to the classroom. Yi Hua received his textbook, school bag and school uniform. Yi Zizi helplessly carried her heavy school bag and was unhappy. The boys in the surrounding classes all ran over to look at Yi Zizi, and the boys in Yi Zizi's class were even more excited. I didn't expect that there would be a new student in my class, she is so cute. The girls also revealed envious expressions. She is so cute. Class monitor, this girl is so cute, she is even cuter than the prettiest girl in our class. A child in the classroom said to the class monitor. The class monitor was called Lu Chuanfeng. He was a very awesome primary school student, and beside him was his little brother Wang Ji. Lu Chuanfeng had already noticed Yi Zizi long ago, and he was even more attracted by Yi Zizi's beauty. She is even more beautiful than his big sisters. Let's talk about it when school starts tomorrow. Lu Chuanfeng said deeply. He did not look like a child at all, and his expression looked more like that of an adult. That's right, Lu Chuanfeng's body was indeed that of an adult. It was just that he had reincarnated into the body of a child, causing him to feel very depressed. The pain was short and powerless. Yi Zizi looked at the primary school students in the classroom and wished that she could kill them all. Mr. Yi, the procedures have been completed. Just bring the child to school tomorrow, the dean said politely. Up until now, Yi Zizi's performance has been pretty good, and she did not cause any trouble for me. After Yi Zizi left, everyone in the class started to talk about this new student. She's so cute. I like those two ponytails. Back in the car, Yi Zizi put down her bag and said, I want a Ferrari. Baiji, bring her to buy a Ferrari. Yi Hua said faintly. Donghuang Baiji was helpless. This fellow will definitely have to fork out his own money. However, Donghuang Baiji was wrong and Yi Zizi was also wrong. Looking at the bicycle shop in front of him, Yi Hua said faintly, pick one yourself. When the time comes, big cousin will carve the 3 words Ferrari on your bicycle. The corner of Yi Zizi's mouth twitched violently. Then she pouted and said, big cousin. You're lying. You still want a Ferrari? Do you have a driver's license? Your height won't even be as high as the steering wheel. Yi Hua shouted out coldly. This is too outrageous, not as obedient as my daughter. Just how did I bring her up in the past, to let her develop so many bad habits? Chapter 338. Donghuang Baiji didn't know what to say anymore. Then get the hell out of here. Woo, if Zizi doesn't get lost, I want the Ferrari. Yi Hua stared at Yi Zizi coldly, and the latter shrunk her head. His honor is angry. Yi Hua, enough, why are you scaring Zizi? Donghuang Baiji interceded for Yi Zizi. When Yi Hua put on a stern face, it was rather scary. You are really lacking discipline. In the future when we take the bus there is nothing to discuss. After finished speaking, Yi Hua pulled Donghuang Baiji and left. Yi Zizi shouted out in her heart. His honor is a scoundrel, stingy, jealous king, pretentious king, bullying a child, shameless. After returning back, Yi Zizi heavily closed the door. This was her way of expressing her rebellion. Meanwhile, Yi Hua shouted towards Yi Zizi who was in the room, either you go to school tomorrow or you run away from home tomorrow. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly, all right Yi Hua, stop scolding the child. You are asking for a beating. Yi Hua said angrily. Within the entire 7 sins, only Yi Zizi was mischievous. Yi Zizi threw off the shoes on her feet, then sat on the bed while hugging onto the pillow. Yi Zizi continuously scolded his honor, thinking that the previous his honor was the best. It must be said, the little loli who was sitting on the bed was much more tasteful. Her body was soft and easy to push down. Although her legs weren't long, they were very tasteful. Yi Zizi decided, I am not going to school even if I am beaten to death. I am going to leave home, I am not going to play with his honor anymore. The next morning at 6 a.m., Yi Zizi was woken up by the alarm. Rubbing her hazy big eyes, it has been a long time since I woke up so early. After washing up, Yi Zizi wore a brand new school uniform, carried her school bag and left the house. Yi Hua stood on the windowsill of the bedroom, hugged onto the Empress and said faintly, you are quite sensible. Yi Hua, I still want to sleep. The Empress said sweetly while caressing onto Yi Hua's chest. Hearing the Empress's request, Yi Hua would naturally satisfy it. Yi Zizi kicked the pebbles on the road, feeling very depressed. However, Yi Zizi who was wearing the blue school uniform was rather cute. If she was wearing a red scarf, she would be even more outstanding. Zizi, you are going to school. An aunt who was selling pancakes greeted Zizi. Yi Zizi nodded silently. She didn't seem to like communicating with others, but when she saw the pancake, she licked the corner of her mouth. You haven't had breakfast yet, right? Andy will make you a pancake. Yi Zizi took out the money and found that it was 2 yuan for the bus fare and lunch. She didn't even have pocket money. Yi Zizi, the poorest of the 7 deadly sins in history. The middle-aged woman seemed to know what Yi Zizi was thinking and said generously, I won't charge you. Hearing that, Yi Zizi immediately became happy. She revealed a smile, but she still didn't say anything, as if she had a language disorder. If Yi Hua were to find out that the aunt was giving Yi Zizi free food, he would definitely come over to argue with Yi Hua. Why can't I, the supreme overlord, do it for free? Yi Zizi was in a much better mood as she held the piping hot fruit pancake in her hand. She skipped toward the bus stop. There were still many people waiting for the bus. The pancakes made by the auntie were really delicious. Yi Zizi got on the bus while eating her pancake and stuffed 1 yuan into the driver's pocket. As the bus moved forward, the number of people on the bus increased. Yi Zizi sat in her seat and looked out of the window. Little friend, hurry up and give me your seat. A middle-aged woman with a wavy hairstyle said to Yi Zizi. Her tone was very domineering. Yi Zizi turned to look at the woman, then looked out the window. Ah, little friend, you are very impolite. Everyone quickly come and take a look. Upon seeing that, the middle-aged woman immediately started using all kinds of moral coercion on Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi's face was very tense. She really wanted to slap the middle-aged woman who was making noise in front of her to death. In actuality, Yi Zizi's patience wasn't that good. As long as the enemy used a bit of provocation, Yi Zizi would fall for it. At this time, an old man stood out and said, How can you be like this? You are so young, yet you are already taking advantage of your seniority. You have hands and feet, yet you are still bullying an immature child. After being said by the old man, the middle-aged woman seemed to be embarrassed. Furthermore, the surrounding people were also discussing spiritedly. In the past, I used this trick every time I used it, but today it doesn't work anymore. In actuality, Yi Zizi's forbearing look in the eyes of other people looked like she was helpless. She looked very pitiful, and no one had the heart to scold this little girl. Old man, what does this have to do with you? If you have the ability, why don't you ask her to give you her seat? The middle-aged woman was unconvinced and appeared to be very sharp and unkind. Yi Zizi suddenly stood up and pulled onto the old man. The meaning behind her action was very obvious. The old man smiled kindly and said, No need, Grandpa's body is great. Yi Zizi shook her head and pointed to the seat. With a smile on his face, the old man sat down and said to the middle-aged woman, Look at this child, why is she so impolite? But you are the one who is impolite. The middle-aged woman was slapped in the face by her own words, and she felt extremely embarrassed. When the bus stopped, she got off the bus. Yi Zizi used her brain. If Yi Hua knew about this, he would definitely be very gratified. Don't think that this is just a small matter of giving up her seat. If it was used in other places, the effect would be extraordinary. Yi Hua's goal could be considered to have been achieved. Little friend, where are you going? Seeing that Yi Zizi was wearing a school uniform, the old man asked curiously. Yi Zizi had a bit of a favorable impression towards this old man. Jianghu Elementary School. The old man went into a daze and said hurriedly, Little friend, you are taking the wrong bus, you are taking the 118 bus. Yi Zizi replied indifferently. So it turns out that I took the wrong bus. Should I be anxious? Or should I be sad? I might as well skip school, that should be very happy. Seeing that Yi Zizi's behavior was different from other children, the old man asked concernedly, You don't know how to get to school? Yi Zizi shook her head. Where are your father and mother? Yi Zizi shook her head. My own parents? They should be dead, right? The old man was also very worried and decided to send Yi Zizi to school. After arriving at the bus stop, the old man brought Yi Zizi to the correct bus. Yi Zizi felt that the old man was very strange. Why does he care about my matters? Does he not need to do anything? He is so bored. Half an hour later they arrived at Jianghu Elementary School. Right now it was already 7:50 p.m. and the gates of the school were all closed. Yi Zizi was late for the first day of school. What are you guys doing? The security guard at the entrance shouted out. The old man smiled and said, The child took the wrong bus, that's why he is late. The security guard looked at Yi Zizi, who had a cold expression on her face. Since she is wearing a school uniform, she should be from this school. Go in, don't be late next time. The old man smiled and said to Yi Zizi, Quickly go in. Yi Zizi wrinkled her brows as if she was making a difficult choice. Thank you. After saying that, Yi Zizi ran into the school. Chapter 339. In actuality, Yi Zizi was still affected by Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli was very polite. Even when they were playing games, Dong Huangli would still say, I'm sorry, I'm going to kill you. Or, thank you for letting me kill you. Therefore, the current environment made Yi Zizi feel different. Thinking back to the past, in that kind of environment, it was a competition to see who could kill more people, and the topic was always blood. Carrying her school bag, Yi Zizi walked on the small path of the school. The students upstairs looked at her curiously. At this time she was not in the classroom but outside. Wasn't she afraid of being scolded by the teacher? Yi Zizi, on the other hand, didn't mind and walked toward her class. Yi Zizi noticed a woman speaking at the podium. She ignored her and walked into the classroom, sitting in the last row of the classroom. All the students stared at Yi Zizi with their mouths agape. How awesome. She didn't even put the form teacher in her eyes and directly walked in. Teacher Ma was an outstanding primary school teacher, but in his more than 20 years of teaching, this was the first time he had seen such an arrogant student. This was only the second grade of primary school. If they were in junior high or senior high school, it would be amazing. Moreover, this child is so beautiful. I must pull her towards the right path and not take any detours. Class president, this girl is so strong. She's not even afraid of the homeroom teacher, Wang Qi secretly said to Lu Chuanfeng with a look of admiration. Lu Chuanfeng didn't feel anything. After all, he had the mind of an adult in his body. He said, Yes, very powerful. Yi Zizi stuffed her bag into the drawer, then rested her chin on her hands and waited for school to end. Teacher Ma kept staring at Yi Zizi, seemingly wanting to intimidate her with his aura so that she would become obedient. However, Yi Zizi didn't feel anything at all. She was still yawning. Teacher Ma is very angry. There has never been a student who can escape my deep gaze. Classmate Yi Zizi. Hearing someone calling her name, Yi Zizi looked at the woman on the podium and realized that the woman was staring at her. Was he provoking him? As his honor's subordinate, how can I be afraid of a challenge? Yi Zizi glared at him and Mr. Ma took a step back. What a powerful little girl. He had been in the profession for more than 20 years, yet he was frightened by the little girl's eyes today. How infuriated. Yi Zizi, today is the first day of school. Why are you late? Teacher Ma changed his strategy and questioned. Yi Zizi didn't say anything. She didn't want to talk to anyone. The teacher is asking you a question. Teacher Ma shouted. Yi Zizi still didn't say anything. She was still sleeping on the table. This infuriated Teacher Ma. Call your parents over. I've never seen such a child before. It's too infuriating. Yi Zizi still did not have any reaction. After using all kinds of tricks, Teacher Ma walked to Yizizi with a gloomy face. Yizizi. Yizizi. No reaction. No reaction. This stubborn brat. Teacher Ma hurriedly went to find the phone number of the child's parents. He had to talk to them. Right now Yihua and Donghuang Baiji had just woken up. Right after brushing their teeth, Yihua received a call from his teacher. Baiji, I will make a trip to school. Yihua said gravely. This is the first day and you are already being dishonest. Donghuang Baiji was currently washing up, and when she heard that Yihua was going to school, she thought to herself that it was definitely because of Yizizi. Yihua, wait for me, let's go together. Donghuang Baiji was still worried, and she felt that it would be better for her to tag along with them. The two of them didn't even eat breakfast and directly rushed to the school. In the office, Teacher Ma stared at Yizizi while Yizizi looked out of the window with a worried look. At this moment, Yihua and Donghuang Baiji rushed over. When Yihua saw Yizizi's attitude, his anger soared. To actually go against the Supreme Overlord, Yihua's guts were getting bigger and bigger. Yizizi, see if I don't beat you to death today. After speaking, Yihua immediately rushed forward. The surrounding teachers were all stupefied by Yihua's attitude. This is not an act, this is for real. To even be able to help a child like that, you are completely inhumane. Donghuang Baiji pulled onto Yihua. Yihua, no matter how immature Zizi is, you still can't hit him. Baiji, let go of me. Today I will definitely beat this fellow to death. Yihua shouted out angrily. Yizizi appeared to be very scared. She retreated to the corner of the wall and trembled. Originally, he wanted to talk to the parent, but he didn't expect the parent to be even more violent. No wonder the child's personality was like that. He was afraid of being beaten up. Don't be agitated. In fact, Yizizi didn't do anything. She was just late today, Teacher Ma hurriedly comforted. Yihua went into a daze. Not only did he not ease up, he even said coldly, Yizizi, you dare to be late. What did I teach you? You must have a sense of time. Today I will definitely beat you to death. Thinking back, Yizizi would often be late to battles. The reason for that was because she had overslept and didn't have a sense of time at all. Facing his honor's anger, Yizizi shrunk into a corner and looked very pitiful. Teacher Ma turned pale with fright. I didn't expect that a small amount of being late would make him so angry. Wouldn't Yizizi be beaten to death when she returns to school? Don't be angry, student, Yizizi had already explained just now. Last night, she revised until very late, and today she even helped an old granny to cross the road, which is why she was late. She is a good child, she is worthy of praise. Teacher Ma's attitude really changed 180 degrees. Yihua looked at Yizizi, seemingly asking if what the teacher said was true or not. Yizizi nodded her head fearfully. All right, let go of me. Yihua said to Donghuang Baiji who was beside him. Donghuang Baiji was helpless. I didn't expect that Yihua's attitude towards Yizizi would be so explosive. Yihua looked at Teacher Ma who was in front of him and said faintly, if Yizizi dares to act recklessly in school, give me a call, I will go back tonight and properly take care of her. Teacher Ma's expression stiffened as he persuaded that hitting a child won't solve the problem. If you don't hit her, she won't learn her lesson. I will remember it. After finished speaking, Yihua left with Donghuang Baiji. All of the teachers who were present let out a breath of relief. This parent's temper is too big, we are really worried for this child. This child is so adorable, it is possible that there are injuries all over her body. Teacher Ma sighed, Yizizi, go back to class. Yizizi did not say anything and silently walked out of the office. This is so boring, his honors acting skills are too weak, he looked like he was going to hit me, but he was held back by sister-in-law. This is too fake. However, this is also good, that Teacher Ma won't casually complain about me in the future. Yihua who was sitting back in the car was very angry. Yizizi is too unruly. Yihua, what happened today? Why are you so angry today? Donghuang Baiji was very puzzled. Yihua sighed lightly, nothing much, let's go back home. Seeing that Yihua wasn't willing to talk about it, Donghuang Baiji didn't continue asking. She felt that Yihua had quite a lot of secrets on him. She wanted to ask about it, but she was afraid that Yihua would get angry. Meanwhile, Qingya who was far away in Zijin City was very puzzled. Regarding the auction that night, everyone's attitude was suspicious, especially Xiao Yi, that attitude of his was completely filled with unwillingness. Chapter 340. These 2 days, Qingya and her sister had been accompanying their mother and did not go out at all. Meanwhile, after Chu Bai sent the two ladies back that night, he immediately returned to the Chu family. He reported the scandal of Yi Tai and Song Huang to the Chu family. The Chu family was furious. They didn't expect that Yi Tai and Song Huang would actually surround and kill their son. For this kind of matter, justice must be sought. Yi family naturally wouldn't believe such a one-sided story. Thus, Yi family sent people to look for Yi Tai and Song Huang. However, up till now Yi Tai and Song Huang were still not found. Within Qing family's villa, Qing Yutong was currently hugging onto Dong Huang Li, and the two of them were currently watching Happy Home. It was fine that Dong Huang Li was focused, but Qing Yutong was the same as well. From time to time, Qing Yutong and Dong Huang Li would discuss the plot of the movie and which sheep would be eaten first. Qingya sat at the side and pondered. Yutong, did you contact Sage Doctor? Wang Muqing asked tenderly. Qing Yutong smiled. Mom, why would Sage Doctor take a fancy to me? He has not contacted me for a long time. Silly child, if he doesn't contact you, you can contact him. Qing Yutong immediately became speechless. My mother is so snobbish. Zihan asked, Yeah, are you in contact with Chen Xuanzong? Qingya couldn't come back to her senses. You're? Zihan called out. Mom, what's wrong? Qingya came back to her senses and asked. Just now, she was thinking about something. Zihan sighed. What are you thinking about? Oh, nothing. What's wrong? Have you met with Chen Xuanzong? Zihan asked. Qingya wrinkled her brows. From the looks of it, my mother has taken a fancy to Chen Xuanzong. Mother, I am a married woman, is it all right for you to do this? Zihan sighed helplessly. The two mothers looked at each other, and their eyes were full of depression. Standing up, Qingya said lightly, I will go and buy a roast duck. Yutong, do you want to go with me? Qing Yutong was not interested in buying roast duck. Not going, you can go by yourself. Ali, are you going? Qingya asked. Dong Huang Li said with a childish voice, Ali won't go. All right, since the two of you aren't going, I will go by myself then. Qingya appeared to be depressed, but in actuality she was smiling in her heart. This is a move of retreating in order to advance. After all, they were Yi Hua's eyes. Just now, if I were to directly say it out, Qing Yutong would definitely be doubtful. Thus, I decided to ask first and let my little sister let down her guard. Sure enough, Qingya did not change her clothes. Wearing a t-shirt and jeans, she casually took a car key and left the house. Qing Yutong, this 007, did not fulfill his duty. Because Qingya planned to pay a visit to Xiao family, she wanted to know why Xiao Yi suddenly returned the money. In actuality, this question had been perplexing Qingya for a very long time. When Xiao Yi appeared respectfully, Qingya became even more curious. Since Yi Hua isn't willing to tell me, I'll just go and ask him myself. Due to Qing Yutong's negligence, the originally tranquil family's disturbance once again seemed to be stirred up. Qingya drove a BMW 740 and headed straight towards Xiao family. 40 minutes later, Qingya stopped the car outside of Xiao Mansion. Looking at this Xiao Mansion, Qingya was rather shocked. This Xiao Mansion sure is imposing. Yi Hua is much more low profile. Yi Hua had gotten used to it, and that was why he decided to change his taste. Miss, what's the matter? The guard at the entrance of the Xiao Mansion asked. Qingya said faintly, I am looking for Xiao Yi. I dare to name you Mississippi, Qingya. Miss, please wait a moment. As he spoke, the guard went to register and soon returned. Xiao Yi himself also came out to greet him. Xiao Qing. Xiao Yi smiled and greeted. Xiao Xiao. Qingya smiled gently. Xiao Yi hurriedly invited Qingya into the house. The two of them walked into the courtyard of Xiao Mansion, and while listening to the sound of flowing water, Qingya said, Xiao Xiao, the environment here is really unique. It's alright, these are all the masterpieces of the wives. Xiao Yi followed beside Qingya. If one were to observe carefully, Xiao Yi's attitude was that of accompanying Qingya, and not that of a master. Even Qingya was able to sense this point. Xiao Xiao is so fortunate to have so many wives. Qingya smiled and said. Fortunately, Yi Hua isn't like this. Xiao Yi said, this Xiao's luck is rather good to be able to obtain their love. Xiao Qing, how about we go inside and have a cup of tea? Qingya nodded her head. Soon after, the two of them arrived at the main hall. Xu Nan personally brewed tea and served it, and when Xiao Yi's wives found out that Qingya had come, they all came out to greet Qingya. The topic of conversation revolved around the trivial matters of the family, and Xiao Yi was curious about the meaning behind Qingya's sudden visit. Looking at Yu Qi's bulging belly, Qingya said to Xiao Yi, Congratulations to Xiao Xiao for becoming a father. Xiao Yi was naturally happy, Haha, this child is very mischievous. Qinya touched her belly, and this action of hers was seen by Shu Nan. Xiao Qing is pregnant? Qinya appeared to be very happy as she nodded her head slightly. That's right, I have been pregnant for a few months already. It was only recently that my belly had a big reaction. Congratulations to Xiao Qing, I wish that you will be blessed with a child. Same to you, Qinya said courteously. When the topic of conversation reached here, everyone seemed to be a bit awkward and didn't know what to say. Meanwhile, Qinya discovered a strange matter. Why is Nangong Sini missing from Xiao Yi's wives? Xiao Xiao, where did Madame Nangong go? Why don't I see her? When Qinya said that, the expressions of Xiao Yi and his wives froze. Qinya was very sensitive right now, and she immediately discovered the strangeness in their expressions. Could it be that something happened to Nangong Sini? Suddenly, a female servant appeared with a child. Daddy, let's go and play football. The child was precisely Xiao Yi's son, Xiao Yun. Xiao Yi revealed out a loving smile. Yun, there is a guest at home, this is Aunt Qing. Xiao Yun was very courteous as he shouted towards Qinya. Hello, Aunt Qing. This child looks really good. Qinya asked with a smile. Whose child is this? Shu Nan said with a smile. This is big sister Nangong's child. Qinya waved her hand and Xiao Yun walked in front of Qinya. I feel that this aunt in front of me is really beautiful. Little fellow, where did your mother go? Qinya asked curiously. Xiao Yun's little face collapsed. Daddy said that mommy went out on a business trip, and it will be a long time before she comes back. After finished speaking, Xiao Yun immediately missed his mother. He pounced into his father's embrace and shouted, Daddy, Yun or Mrs. Mommy, can you bring me to see Mommy? The corner of Xiao Yi's mouth slightly trembled, and his complexion was very abnormal. Yuqi, bring Yun down to sleep, Xiao Yi said gravely. Xiao Yun immediately started bawling loudly, clamoring for his mother. Only after a few maids came over and carried Xiao Yun away did the bawling sound not stop. Right now, Qinya was very sure that something happened to Nangong Sini, and Xiao Yi had sealed this matter. Xiao Xiao, actually, I came here today because I have a matter that I want to ask you, Qinya said. Xiao Yi nodded his head. Qinya asked faintly, that 50 billion from back then, why did you suddenly return it? Why did you return it? The memories of everyone in Xiao family were pulled back to that night. Facing against the incomparably valiant skeleton, what else could they do? Not only did they have to return the money, they also had to return a life. To Xiao Yi, the blow that night was too heavy. His beloved was forced to death by the skeleton, and what was laughable was that in the end he still went to beg them and even helped his enemy. Thinking about such a matter, Xiao Yi clenched his fists tightly, and spiritual energy gradually spread out from his body. At the same time, spiritual energy was also emitted out from his body. Cough, cough, cough. Shu Nan lightly coughed a few times, reminding her husband to be careful. Chapter 341. Xiao Yi gradually retracted his fierce aura, but from Qinya's point of view, this was all an act. Even the words that he was going to say later were all fake. Xiao Qing, regarding the matter last time, this Xiao is sorry, I did not fulfill my promise in time, this Xiao is ashamed, I hope that Xiao Qing can be magnanimous enough to forgive me. With that, Xiao Yi even stood up and cupped his hands, expressing his apology. My money is gone, my beloved wife was forced to death, I still have to be ordered by the enemy, and now, I still have to apologize for this matter. What is going on with this world? Qingya was originally just curious, wanting to see what kind of tricks Yihua played to make those people who looked down on her change their temperament. Of course, she was happy in her heart, after all, Yihua did it all for her, not letting her get hurt or be looked down upon by others. Having a husband who cared about her like this, Qingya felt that she was very happy. But from the looks of it now, the matter doesn't seem to be that simple. Thinking of Yihua's strength, could it be that he used violence? The Xiao family had used violence and the others had been frightened. Qingya didn't want to continue asking because she was afraid of finding out some bad things. After all, the awakening of her bloodline made her have a strange pity or benevolence. This Queen Yua's duty was to protect the common people, she wouldn't be soft-hearted towards evil, but towards the weak she would feel pity. Thus, Qingya didn't want to continue asking, she stood up and said with a smile, Xiao Xiao must be joking, that is all in the past, I still have some matters at home, I won't disturb you anymore. Xiao Qing, I will send you out. Xiao Yi forced a smile and said. Qingya nodded her head. However, just as Qingya was about to leave, Yu Qi suddenly knelt on the ground and begged, Xiao Qin. Please save our Xiao family. A pregnant woman knelt on the ground and begged. This made Qinya, who was preparing to leave, change her expression. Just what happened to make these people so hesitant? Looking at the panic on their faces, it was as if they had received a huge shock. Yuqi. What are you doing? Quickly get up. Xiao Yi shouted coldly. Yuqi's action was no less than self-immolation. The current situation was very clear. Qinya didn't know about those matters at all. If the mastermind was the bar's boss, then he would have concealed it. But with this kneeling, everything would be exposed. Then why did the boss have to conceal it? Wasn't it just because he was afraid that Qinya would know some shady matters? If this matter was exposed, the Xiao family would face terrifying consequences. Xiao Yi and Shu Nan did not dare to continue thinking about it. But what could Yuqi do? She was just an ordinary woman who was pregnant with a child. During this period of time, she was on tenterhooks, afraid that what happened that night would happen again. It didn't matter if she died. She was worried about her child. As a mother, it wasn't wrong to plead for the life of the child in her womb, right? Yuqi, get up. Shu Nan tried to persuade her. Stop talking. Yuqi, who was always on tenterhooks, was actually a bit depressed. She directly kneeled in front of Qinya and grabbed onto Qinya's ankle. Xiao Qin, I beg you to spare my child's life, he is innocent. Xiao Yi shouted in a deep voice, bring Yuqi to her room to rest. All the lovely wives stood up, and suddenly all knelt on the ground and begged with their tender voices, Xiao Qin, please let our Xiao family go. Xiao Yi and Shu Nan were both stunned. Just like Yuqi, Xiao Yi's other wives were also very worried. They were afraid that something would happen to their husbands. Now that Qinya was here, they had no choice but to try their best. They thought that as long as they begged Qinya, they wouldn't make things difficult for Xiao family. But what they didn't know was that Yi Hua didn't say anything about this matter, and he didn't plan to say anything. To Yi Hua at that time, not massacring Xiao family was already very lenient, and he even felt that there was no need to say such a small matter. Looking at the actions of Xiao Yi's wives, Qinya's eyebrows wrinkled deeply. Just what did Yi Hua do to make them kneel on the ground and beg for mercy? No wonder Xiao Yi's attitude was so good. Now I finally know. All of you get up. Qinya said gravely. All the lovely wives were crying non-stop. That kind of pressure of living under a haze every day made their hearts hurt. Qinya sat on the chair at the side, while Xiao Yi sat on the main seat with a gloomy face. What else can we do now? We have already been exposed, we can only rely on Qinya now. Just what happened? Qinya asked faintly. Everyone remained silent and looked at Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi took a deep breath, then opened his bloodshot eyes and said, this matter has to start from that bet. Qinya nodded her head, that is indeed the case. Xiao Qin, I didn't want to pay back the money that bet, which was why someone came to my door and fought with me. In the end I still lost. Not only did I pay back the money, I also paid back a person's life. Xiao Yi said it very casually, but when he thought of his beloved wife's death, his heart felt as if it was being twisted by a knife. Qinya was very shocked and said in disbelief, a person's life is Nangong Sini's? Xiao Yi nodded his head. My beloved wife was forced to her death. He said that this was the interest, and he wanted me to choose one of my women to die with. The crying sound of women rang out in the hall. The situation back then was so sad and helpless, and they could only watch helplessly as Nangong Sini fell in front of them. Qinya was very shocked. It is normal to ask for a debt, but to force a person to her death, I am a little unable to tolerate this kind of method. Who is the person that you all are talking about? Qinya's question was a little nervous. Please don't say it is Yi Hua. Yi Hua would never do such a heinous thing. Xiao Yi didn't speak carelessly. It is a skeleton that is wearing a black robe. Qinya let out a breath of relief. Fortunately, it is not Yi Hua. Although my Yi Hua likes to act cool, he is not to the extent of doing such a thing. There is also a lump of black fog. Yuqi added. A lump of black fog? Qinya asked puzzledly. Xiao Yi explained, that lump of black fog seems to be the owner of the black robe. Xiao Yi hurriedly shut his mouth. I can't say any more. What happened to them? Qinya asked coldly. They are very strong, but they seem to be obeying someone. Right now Xiao Yi could only place all of his hopes on Qinya. Even if Xiao Yi didn't say it, Qinya would be able to guess it. After all, Yi Hua had taken out those transfer agreements back then, and the person behind the black robe should be Yi Hua. Right now, Qinya's mood was very complicated, and she didn't know what to do. Why would Yi Hua use such a method to step on someone's debt? Is this still the Yi Hua that I know? Doesn't he just like to smoke, drink and brag? Why would he choose to force a woman to her death? What about a mother? Qingya was really unable to understand. Did this black robe do anything else? Qingya asked gravely. Withdrawing from the aristocratic family selection this time was also the black robe's order. Xiao Yi said bluntly. Why don't you talk about the matter of the black robe helping you? Do you know the consequences of this? Chapter 342. I heard that this black gown even did something improper to Cloud Sect Master, causing Cloud Sect Master to be chased out of the sect. When an ancient godly item appeared in the south, the black gown was also present. Illicit affairs? Qingya's expression sunk. Not only did Yi Hua's subordinate force a mother to death, he even harmed a woman? Is this matter related to Yi Hua or not? Is it his subordinate's misbehavior, or did he get Yi Hua's permission? Qingya would rather believe that the black gown was the one who did it, and that Yi Hua didn't know about it at all. I understand you guys can be at ease. Qingya seemed to have a lot on her mind, and after finished speaking she walked out of the hall. Xiao Yi hurriedly followed after her and sent Qingya out. Looking at Qingya leaving, Xiao Yi's thoughts were very complicated. I really don't know if this matter is right or wrong. I feel that Xiao family's fate is hanging in the balance once again. Qingya didn't directly return home. Instead, she bought a roast duck before returning home. Big sister, why did you take so long to buy a roast duck? We are about to starve to death. Qing Yutong hugged onto Dong Huangli and played around. The two mothers shook their heads. They are already so old, yet they are acting like children. Aunt Qing, Ali's stomach is about to shrivel up. Dong Huangli rubbed onto her stomach and said while giggling. Qingya smiled, quickly let Aunt touch your stomach, there was a traffic jam on the road just now so I was late. Qing Yutong rolled her eyes at her big sister. You already gambled for 2 hours, you couldn't have met your lover, right? Qingya knocked onto her little sister's head. Just eat your roast duck. Zihan's eyes shone. Could it be that I went to meet Qin Xuanzong just now? I already bought a roast duck as my name, that's great. Qingya, who returned home, seemed very normal, there wasn't the slightest bit of abnormality. Because right now, Qingya felt that Yi Hua was wronged, he wouldn't do such a thing. However, she didn't dare to question Yi Hua directly, fearing that she would get a different answer. If that happened, she really wouldn't know what to do, this damned bloodline effect. Time passed by just like this, day after day. A week passed by in the blink of an eye. Yi Tai and Song Huang were still nowhere to be found. No one knew where they went. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. This made the Yi family's clan leader Yi Xiao feel a little uneasy. Meanwhile, Voidless Realm also released the results of the selection, and Voidless Realm allowed Tang family to participate in the selection. This caused Bai family to go crazy from anger. In order to avoid any casualties, Voidless Realm warned Tang family and Bai family that before the results of the election were revealed, fighting was not allowed, and those who violated the rules would be eliminated from the election. To the Tang clan this was a good thing. But to the Bai clan it was like adding snow to snow. Originally, Qingya had said that she would be able to go back in a week, but even after Qing Yutong had urged her to go back a few times, Qingya still said that she would be accompanying her parents, and in actuality Qingya didn't dare to go back. Recently Yi Zizi had become a lot more well-behaved. Yi Zizi was not late for school, and after school ended she would go home. Yi Zizi also did not cause any trouble in school. This made Yi Hua rather happy. Yi Zizi had grown up. However, right now Yi Hua was a bit gloomy. This Qingya doesn't even plan to return to her maiden home. However, with Donghuang Baiji accompanying Yi Hua every single day, Yi Hua's mood became slightly better. Just that, the plan to give birth to a child has yet to be carried out. Right now Yi Hua wasn't anxious, but Donghuang Baiji was anxious. At least twice a day she would ask Yi Hua, when are we going to have a child? Yi Hua was very smug. Look at how the Empress is begging for a child right now, yet I, the Supreme Overlord, refuse to give it to you. On this day Yi Hua couldn't take it anymore. He took out his phone and gave a call to Qingya. You have to come back today, if not, I will go and catch you. Yi Hua gave a death order. I haven't seen Qingya for almost half a month and I am starting to miss her. Hearing Yi Hua's familiar voice, Qingya said tenderly, all right, we will come back today. That's more like it. We will be having crayfish tonight. Qingya, after keeping his phone, Yi Hua laughed lightly. His mood was pretty good. After watching TV for a while, he went to pick up Qingya from the airport. Donghuang Baiji walked behind Yi Hua, then stretched out her slender hand and placed onto Yi Hua's shoulder. Qinya, are you going to come back? And if you don't come back, I will have to catch you. Yi Hua smiled faintly. Dong Huang Baiji said gently, all right, I'm jealous. Oh? Empress is jealous? I want to see what she looks like. Hateful. After speaking, Yi Hua hugged the Empress in his embrace and started to take liberties with her. Meanwhile, the Empress was very vexed. This Yi Hua only ignites the fire but doesn't extinguish the fire. Knowing that she was going to return home, Dong Huangli appeared to be very happy. I have had enough of staying in Zijin City for the past few days, and I miss my daddy and mommy. With regards to my two daughters wanting to return south, there is nothing I can do about it. Zihan and Wang Muqing sent their daughters to the airport and were reluctant to part with them. The next time I come back will be during Chinese New Year, right? On the other side, Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji arrived at Long and City's airport to pick up Qinya. When Yi Hua saw the three of them walking out of the airport, a faint smile appeared on Yi Hua's face. After not seeing Qinya for almost half a month, Qinya is still so beautiful. Daddy, Mommy. Upon seeing her parents, Dong Huangli sprinted over like a little Superman and directly threw herself into Yi Hua's embrace. While carrying his daughter, Yi Hua asked lightly, has Ali been obedient these few days? And Ali has been very obedient. After speaking, Ali kissed her father, then stretched out her hands towards her mother. Dong Huang Baiji took over her daughter, and both mother and daughter were very affectionate towards each other. Meanwhile, Yi Hua looked towards Qinya. Why aren't you coming into my embrace yet? Qinya slowly walked to the front of Qinya, then hugged onto her husband's body and said tenderly, Yi Hua, I missed you so much. This was probably the longest time the two had been apart. Lightly hugging onto Qinya, Yi Hua said tenderly, I missed you too. Hearing Yi Hua's tone, Qinya felt a bit more at ease. After all, a man who is in love will not do that kind of thing. Qing Yutong, who was standing at the side, was very unhappy. Why isn't there anyone welcoming the baby? It was too inhumane. Seeing that his sister-in-law was standing at the side gloomily, Yi Hua let go of his wife and hugged his sister-in-law. Don't misunderstand, this is just brother-in-law's love for his sister-in-law. I, the supreme overlord, never lie. Qing Yutong became happy. I didn't get spanked by my brother-in-law for nothing, and immediately gave Qing Yutong a hug. Yi Hua took a look at the men in the surroundings and sneered in his heart. My luck with women is not something that you all can enjoy. The surrounding men who took the opportunity were very envious. This beauty was hugged by the same man. God was unfair. Yi Hua expressed that the effect of acting cool was not bad, and it was about time for him to go back. Come on, let's go home. His left hand was holding onto Qinya, his right hand was holding onto the Empress, and behind him was his sister-in-law. I'm a winner in life. If anyone was dissatisfied, they could step forward and ask for guidance. I will teach you a lesson every minute. When Yi Hua returned back to Qinya Bar, it was already 7 p.m. Yi Hua knew that Qinya was going to come back soon, and thus he decided to close the bar for the night. Yi Hua and his family were going to have a good meal together and enjoy this moment of reunion. When Qing Yutong saw Yi Zizi, who was wearing the school uniform, she immediately became furious. That smug look on Yi Zizi's face made even Yi Hua want to spank her, but let alone Yi Zizi herself. Chapter 343. Daddy, I want more meat, more meat. Right now, Dong Huangli didn't even bother to peel the crayfish and directly finished off 2 big pieces of meat. Yi Hua drank the wine and said faintly, Ali, you can't eat too much of this kind of meat. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth and wrinkled her brows. Dong Huangli seemed to be saying that if you don't give it to me, I will cry. Of course, Yi Hua wouldn't spoil Ali too much. After all, Ali was still young and Ali could only eat in moderation. Seeing that her daddy was really not going to give her any more, Dong Huangli looked towards Qing Yutong and said, Aunt Qing, give some to Ali. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong even picked up the plate and placed it in front of Qing Yutong, causing everyone to laugh endlessly. Ali, you have to listen to Daddy's words. Aunt Qing also came over like this. Next time, eat slower, and once you get used to it, you will be fine. Qing Yutong said with a smile while protecting the meat on the plate. Stingy, Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth and looked towards her mommy. Dong Huang Baiji naturally loved her daughter dearly, and just when she was about to give her daughter some, Yi Hua said faintly, Baiji. Since her husband had already spoken, Dong Huang Baiji was powerless to help. At the same time, she also knew that although the meat was good, it must be eaten in moderation. At the same time, Dong Huang Baiji was able to understand that Dong Huang Baiji shouldn't spoil the child too much. Dong Huangli became even more depressed. Ali is angry, the kind that can't be coaxed. Everyone ignored him. A few minutes later, Dong Huangli could only acquiesce to the fact that Dong Huangli was right. Dong Huangli began peeling the crayfish, then began fawning on her daddy and mommy in various ways. Yihua was very gratified. My daughter is still sensible. Qinya, did anything happen during the past few days? Yihua asked. Qinya placed the prawn meat into Yihua's bowl and said tenderly, No, I just brought Ali to walk around. That old friend of yours didn't come to look for you? What Yihua mainly wanted to ask was this. After all, the title of Jealous King in the cultivation world isn't just randomly given. Qinya laughed lightly. With a jealous king like you around, who would dare to look for me? Qinya, pay attention to your words, I'm just concerned about you. Yihua said faintly. Jealous? Will I be jealous? Stop daydreaming. Even if this old man collapses, I, the Supreme Overlord, will not feel jealous. Alright, I am concerned about you. Qinya smiled helplessly. Seeing that Yi Zizi had become taciturn, Qinya asked curiously, Zizi is going to school fun? I'm very happy, Yi Zizi said quietly. This sentence was too fake. At least smile. Ali wants to go to school too, and in the future she wants to become a doctor. Dong Huangli shouted out. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows. Why do you want to become a doctor? Because Ali wants to save the dying and heal the injured. Hearing that, Yihua felt that it was inappropriate. My daughter doesn't need to be saved. However, when Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji heard Dong Huang Baiji's words, the two wives felt very gratified. Yihua said indifferently, What's so good about being a doctor? In the future, Daddy will bring you along to conquer the world. Sure enough, upon hearing that, Dong Huangli became very excited. Daddy, when are we going to conquer the world? When Ali grows up we'll go. Dong Huang Baiji smiled. Alright, Yihua, Ali is still so young, there's no need to teach her these things. This child will have to be picked up from when he is young. You all don't have to worry about him anymore. Yihua put on the airs of the head of a family. Everything will be decided by me. Using Yihua's words, the two of you will be responsible for taking good care of me, while I will stay at home and teach the child how to conquer the world. Speaking of the matter regarding the child, Qinya wanted to express her opinion. Yihua, Ali is still young right now, don't teach her some dangerous techniques. If an accident were to happen, the innocent would be harmed. Dong Huang Baiji still didn't know about this matter, and she asked confusedly, What technique? Dong Huangli began showing off as deviant flames appeared on all 10 of her fingers. Mommy, is it nice? Dong Huang Baiji was startled. Sensing the terrifying aura coming from the deviant flames, she hurriedly said, Ali, quickly put it away. Dong Huangli silently put away the deviant flames. Why do Mommy and the others have this kind of expression when they see my techniques? Daddy is the only one who looks happy. Yihua, this is too dangerous. If Ali isn't able to control it properly, something might happen. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but mention this matter. To actually secretly teach Ali this technique. This deviant flame is an area of effect attack. If a child were to be able to control it properly, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yihua said faintly, Ali is able to control it very well, I am very reassured. And Ali is very smart. Dong Huangli also wanted to make her mommy happy, just like how a student who scored 100 marks on a test wanted to be praised by their parents. Dong Huang Baiji wrinkled her brows and said, Ali, in the future you can't casually use this technique, do you understand? Baiji, why can't Ali use this technique? Yihua asked gravely. My technique is bad? Dong Huang Baiji explained, Yihua, Ali is still young right now, don't teach her this kind of dangerous technique. What if someone gets hurt? Yihua placed down his chopsticks and said gravely, What's wrong with me teaching my child a powerful technique? This is also to allow Ali to have the ability to protect herself. Why can't it be used by you too? Daddy, Mommy, don't fight, Ali doesn't need to use this technique in the future. Seeing that her parents were fighting because of her, Dong Huangli hurriedly persuaded. Yihua looked at his daughter and said faintly, Ali, don't be afraid. Use it when it's time, don't let others think that we are easy to bully. Yihua, how can you teach your child like this? Dong Huang Baiji shouted out. Yihua was clearly trying to turn his child into a demon king. This was something that Dong Huang Baiji wouldn't allow. After all, Dong Huang Baiji was a big shot in the north, and her responsibility was to stabilize all of the powers in the north and prevent large-scale casualties from occurring. Her goal was not much different from Yua's bloodline, which was to maintain the stability of the common people. This was also the philosophy that Donghuang Baiji had been instilled with since young. Donghuang Baiji naturally hoped that her daughter would inherit the family's tradition and do more good deeds, and not do evil deeds. However, what Yehua said just now was precisely preparing to teach his daughter to become a bad girl. In actuality, Donghuang Baiji was thinking too lightly. Yehua was preparing to teach his daughter to become a real queen and let everyone worship her. He wasn't going to become a doctor. Alright, I don't want to argue with you two, and you two don't need to care about Ali's education, Yehua said coldly. I was originally going to eat happily, but you two just had to make me unhappy. Qinya, who had been silent the entire time, said lightly, Yehua, I feel that for the sake of Ali's education, we should discuss it properly. There's nothing to discuss, Yehua shouted out gravely. What's wrong with these two women today? Why are they going against me again? It has only been peaceful for a few days. Daddy, Mommy, you two are angry. It's fine as long as Ali is obedient. Dong Huangli was so anxious that her eyes had turned red. Big sister, brother-in-law, we can slowly discuss about the child's education. Don't be anxious, don't get angry, Qin Yutong hurriedly persuaded. Originally, I thought that the appearance of a love rival would make brother-in-law angry, but I didn't expect that the two of them would have a disagreement because of the child. This seems to be even more troublesome. As a supreme overlord, brother-in-law will definitely look at things differently. Big sister and Baiji are both kind-hearted people. How can they possibly allow their child to become a demon king? In actuality, Yehua didn't want to argue with them either. Chapter 344. What was supposed to be a joyous occasion had instantly turned sour, and the atmosphere was a little depressing. Yihua appeared to be very irritated. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji remained silent as well. Right now, Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi were even more unwilling to anger Yihua. Donghuang Li was scared. She feared that her daddy and mommy would quarrel with each other like how they used to. After a while, Qinya suggested, Yihua, I feel that we should have a family meeting. Seconded. Donghuang Baiji indeed wanted to talk about the issue of having a child. After all, this matter was related to the future, and thus she had to settle this matter. Yihua also felt that he had to talk about this problem properly, thus he said gravely, all right. Soon after, Qin Yutong said to Qin Yutong, Yutong, bring Zizi and Ali upstairs first. Qin Yutong nodded her head, you two can discuss it properly. As long as the family is harmonious, everything will prosper. After warning Donghuang Li, Qin Yutong went upstairs with Donghuang Li. Yi Zizi silently followed behind Donghuang Li, and Yi Zizi had a lifeless look on her face. The three sat in front of the dining table, and Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. What do you guys want to say? As Donghuang Li's mother, Donghuang Baiji took the lead and said, Yehua, can you leave the problem of Ali's education to me? As Ali's father, can't I teach him? Yihua asked gravely. Today, I will definitely let them know that my words are not to be doubted. Donghuang Baiji wrinkled her brows. However, the things that you are teaching are not helpful to the child's growth. In fact, it might even cause Ali to walk down a path of no return. During this period of time, Qinya had been thinking for a very long time, especially the problem of her child's education. In a few months' time, I am going to give birth to my child. I have to prepare early. Yihua, how about this? Can you hand over the child's education to us? Qinya also wanted to properly discuss with Yihua, and she naturally didn't want to quarrel with Yihua. Are you saying that I can't teach children? Yihua questioned. Yihua's anger was also slowly rising, making me seem like a sinner, to the point where I am not even allowed to touch the child. Qinya said earnestly, it's fine for you to tell us those fallacious reasoning of yours, but when it comes to the child's growth, it's not good. That's right. Donghuang Baiji answered. Bang. Yihua fiercely slammed onto the table and said coldly, how am I distorting logic? This is a world where the weak are prey to the strong. What do you want to teach your children? A weak philanthropist? At the very least, it is better than a demon that does no evil. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. When these words fell into Yihua's ears, it was as if Yihua was scolding him in a roundabout way, because Yihua was this kind of person in the past. Enough. Yihua shouted out angrily. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji's bodies trembled. They didn't know why Yihua suddenly got angry. This is just a discussion about children, there is nothing wrong with it. The two wives didn't refute Yihua's anger, because they didn't want to quarrel over this matter. However, they still wanted to fight for it. Qinya begged in a low voice, "Yihua, can you consider it for a bit? There's no need to think about it, this matter is decided, the family meeting will end here." Yihua said coldly, then stood up and prepared to go upstairs. Donghuang Baiji let out a deep sigh, appearing to be very dispirited. Everything about Yihua is good, just that he is too overbearing. I have to listen to him for everything, and if I don't listen to him he will get angry. What's going on with the Shao family? Yihua, who was preparing to leave, suddenly stopped his footsteps, then turned his head around and looked towards Qinya. "What did you say?" Qinya asked calmly, "How did you get that money back then?" Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, revealed a puzzled look. After all, back then she wasn't present yet, thus she didn't know about these matters. Yihua let out a breath, then said indifferently, "Didn't I tell you in the past that I asked someone to go and get the money back?" "Just go and get the money back?" Qinya asked faintly. In actuality, she was also very nervous in her heart. She didn't want Yihua to be related to Nangong Sini's death. Yihua looked at Qinya and asked gravely, "Qinya, what exactly are you trying to say? Is that Nangong Sini's death related to you?" Qinya asked, her heart was in her throat. Yihua naturally remembered that Nangong Sini, then said gravely, "If you have something to say, just say it, don't beat around the bush. I heard that it was your subordinate who forced Nangong Sini to death, and he is only collecting interest. Is this what you requested, or did he do it on his own?" Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, was startled. There was actually such a thing? Yihua looked at Qinya in disbelief. What does this mean? Is she here to blame me? His anger that had originally calmed down immediately soared. "That's right. It is what I requested, it is only right and proper for someone to repay their debt. Back then I gave them 3 days of time, and it was they who didn't cherish it. I'm already giving them a lot of face by not killing their entire family." Yihua didn't have any intention to hide anything from Yihua. Right now he didn't want to hide anything, there was no need for him to do so. After hearing the answer, Qinya revealed a disappointed look. "I didn't expect that it was really Yihua's order, and my mind was in a bit of a mess." Meanwhile, Donghuang Baiji didn't know what to say, and thus she remained silent. Looking at Qinya's disappointed look, Yihua felt very uncomfortable in his heart as he asked, "Qinya, are you blaming me? I shouldn't have treated them like that?" Qinya didn't mean it like that, and she said tenderly, "Yihua, although they are in the wrong, we can still talk about it. There is no need to force a child's mother to death." After hearing what Qinya said, Yihua sneered, "Qinya, are you blaming me for killing the innocent?" "Yihua, I am not blaming you, I just hope that in the future, you can think from another perspective, and not let your emotions affect your decisions." Qinya persuaded attentively. In actuality, she just didn't want to see Yihua killing people indiscriminately, just like how Yihua was asking for a debt. If Yihua killed Xiao Yi, Qinya wouldn't have anything to say about it. However, if Yihua killed an innocent mother, Qinya would have no choice but to tell her husband not to do such a thing in the future. "Qinya, you are truly too naive. If I was slightly weaker, do you think that Xiao Yi would let me off? Do you think that he would let you off? Let me tell you. He wouldn't, he would even use the same method to make me suffer." How could Qinya not know what Yihua was thinking? Qinya said faintly, "Yihua, I know what you are trying to say. Let's not do those shameful things, alright?" Qinya would rather see Yihua openly go and look for his enemy than to see Yihua secretly torturing his enemy using innocent people. "You are saying that I am shameful." This time Yihua was really angered by Qinya. Donghuang Baiji hurriedly said, "Yihua, Qinya didn't mean it like that, you misunderstood her. Didn't your subordinate, the Black Robe, violate a sect master?" Qinya didn't like Yihua being like this. "It is obvious that I am in the wrong, yet I am still acting as if I am in the right." Donghuang Baiji was very astonished. Yihua's subordinate violated a sect master? The two wives looked at Yihua with a questioning gaze at the same time. Yihua's heart turned cold. "In your eyes, am I that kind of person? To think that I, the supreme overlord, had to put in so much effort to save the two of you." Yihua let out an ice-cold voice and said, "If I were to say that they are currently in love with each other, would you believe me?" The two wives didn't say anything. It was clear that they didn't believe him. At this moment, Yihua's heart seemed to have been deeply pierced by the two women in front of him. As wives, they don't even believe in their husbands' words. Just how disappointing is this? Chapter 345. Yi Hua sat on the chair, and a vicious aura was being emitted out from his body. This caused Qingya and Donghuang Baiji to be very worried, but there was nothing they could do. No matter what, I have to make Yi Hua change a little and stop treating human life as a game. Right now Yi Hua was very disappointed in Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, extremely disappointed. As my wife, not only did they not do their duty well, they even helped an outsider to reprimand me? They didn't even believe his words. This was absolutely intolerable. Don't expect me to put on a show again, that's absolutely impossible. Last time I was at fault and in order to redeem myself I admitted it. But this time don't even think about it. The three of them sat in the hall and did not speak, and Yi Hua was smoking one cigarette after another. After quite a while, space distorted and Death Mage and Sun Fang appeared at the scene. GGG, Royal Translator, Boss. Sun Fang also greeted respectfully, Boss. Wei Chang had already instructed them to skip the honorific and just call him Boss. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji looked towards the black robe. They never expected that the black robe would actually be a skeleton. His hair stood on end. Dare I ask, how did a skeleton humiliate the beauty beside him? Both Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were stupefied. Go ahead and ask. Yi Hua said coldly. Sun Fang said to the two ladies, Madams, I am Sun Fang, the previous sect master of Cloud Sect. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were very puzzled. Why would such a beautiful woman be on good terms with a skeleton? This isn't an act, right? Madams, you can ask me if you have any questions. It needs to type to speak, so it's rather slow, Sun Fang said softly. Death Mage took out his phone and typed a few words, then showed his phone. I can't talk. This time the two women were even more shocked. A skeleton that couldn't speak, how could there be such a woman? What was wrong with this world? Qingya looked towards the angry Yi Hua and felt that her brain wasn't enough to process what was going on. Sun Fang, did he violate you before? Qingya asked curiously. Sun Fang nodded. Yes. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's expression immediately changed. However, Sun Fang continued, however, I did it voluntarily. The two girls were embarrassed. Seeing the two madams' confusion, Sun Fang naturally knew that back in the Ying family, there were many people who had the same question. Why did such a beautiful person end up with a skeleton? Sun Fang actually wanted to say that the little skeleton's body was tough and she couldn't beat it in any way. The two madams must be very puzzled. Actually, I don't know why I like skeletons either. He doesn't even have a single piece of meat on his body. Even when I hug him he's stiff. But it can make me laugh and make me feel better. Isn't this the feeling that we women have always wanted? Love knows no race. Although it sometimes angers me, it can quickly coax me. I still have to praise it for this. Looking at the blissful smile on Sun Fang's face, the two women felt that she wasn't lying, but they still couldn't believe it. Look at others, then look at yourselves. Yi Hua, who was sitting at the side, said coldly. How good is my subordinate's wife? My subordinate's wife and my subordinate's wife are so loving and have never quarreled with each other. Looking at my own wife, I really can't compare her with my subordinate's wife. Alright, regarding this matter, Qingya felt that she had misunderstood Yi Hua. She finally let out a sigh of relief in her heart. After all, Yi Hua didn't help the evildoer. However, Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, said with a taut face, Yi Hua, I have always wanted to ask you, how did you get those things in the storage room? Last time when Donghuang Baiji saw those things she was very shocked. However, in the end she didn't ask about it anymore. During this period of time she had been too sweet and had forgotten about it. Now that she remembered about it, she decided to ask about it. Yi Hua pointed at Death Mage. He sent them over. Donghuang Baiji looked towards Death Mage and asked, how did you get those betrothal gifts? Death Mage was very honest. After all, it was the madam who asked about it. Death Mage typed on his phone and soon after his phone lit up. 2 words. Snatched. After taking a look, Yi Hua said faintly, well snatched. GGG, Imperial Translation. Thank you, Your Honor, for your praise. Donghuang Baiji's face immediately sunk as she asked, where is he? Death Mage continued typing. It was still 2 words. Killed. Yi Hua said faintly, well killed. My husband's men killed my subordinates? My husband was still cheering at the side. Donghuang Baiji shouted out, Yi Hua, aren't you going to explain yourself? Yi Hua stood up and looked at Donghuang Baiji. What do you want me to explain? Without my permission you actually went to send betrothal gifts. Fortunately, my subordinates coincidentally snatched the betrothal gifts. If not, you would have given me a green hat. After hearing what Yi Hua said, Donghuang Baiji was actually speechless. However, she still felt uncomfortable in her heart. But your subordinates killed my subordinates. Baiji, if you didn't go and send betrothal gifts, would your subordinates have died? Could it be that you want my subordinates to take the blame? Yi Hua shouted out coldly. He didn't look like a madam at all. Donghuang Baiji stared at Yi Hua, seemingly wanting Yi Hua to give her an explanation. In any case, I am the Empress of Voidless Realm. Since my subordinates died in vain, I should at least seek justice for them, right? In actuality, if Yi Hua were to apologize right now, everything would be fine. With just a bit of cowardice, the two beauties would be in his arms again. However, this time, Yi Hua wouldn't pamper them anymore. Baiji, what kind of expression is that? Could it be that you want me to punish my subordinates? Yi Hua shouted out sternly. Shouldn't it be? Donghuang Baiji asked back. Yi Hua could be considered to be quite angered by the two women today. He said gravely, Qinya Baiji, let me tell the two of you that is impossible. There is no need for me, Yi Hua, to ask the two of you what I do. You. Donghuang Baiji was also angered by Yi Hua. Qinya pulled onto Donghuang Baiji and said lightly to Yi Hua, can we both calm down for a bit? Calm down? I will never calm down in my entire life. I will do whatever I have to do. Seeing that Yi Hua's emotions were very great, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji discussed with each other in a low voice. In the end, Qinya said, Yi Hua, Baiji and I will go to Voidless Realm to stay for a period of time. You should properly think about it. After thinking it through, come to Voidless Realm and look for us. Yi Hua was angered to the point that he laughed. You two want to leave again? You two are truly treating my doting as donkey's liver and lungs. Yi Hua shouted out coldly, fine. All of you scram. Do you all really think that I will die without the two of you? Seeing Yi Hua acting like this, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji couldn't bear to see Yi Hua acting like this. After all, Yi Hua had sacrificed a lot for them. However, Yi Hua truly had a lot of bad habits. For the sake of the future, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji felt that there was a need for Yi Hua to properly think about it. Donghuang Baiji said calmly, Yi Hua, I will bring Ali back to Voidless Realm first. After you think it through, come and bring us back. Yi Hua, there are actually a lot of things that can be properly solved. Qinya persuaded tenderly. Yi Hua stamped on the cigarette butt and said gravely, Qinya, Baiji, I will prove to the two of you that those theories of yours are completely bullshit. Seeing that Yi Hua was still acting like this, the two women let out a sigh, then disappeared from the hall. Seeing that his wives had disappeared, Yi Hua picked up the wine bottle and smashed it onto the ground. Those two foolish women really left. Chapter 346. Death Mage and Sun Fang also left silently. Right now, his honor's mood is definitely not good. I heard that his honor would threaten his subordinates to break up with him for no reason at all. Right now, his honor is not having a good time, and his honor will definitely not let this subordinate have a good time. Brother-in-law, Ali was taken away by her mother. Qing Yutong suddenly ran over. Got it, do as you wish. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. What about my big sister? Qing Yutong asked weakly. All of them ran away from home. After finished speaking, Yi Hua lit a cigarette and went upstairs. Sitting on the sofa in the office, Yi Hua decided on one thing. I'm going to let them see that the so-called mercy is actually just a joke. In actuality, Yi Hua should be rejoicing. This was only a small part of the secret that was discovered by Qinya. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji would never say that they would wait for you. However, that was no longer important. Yi Hua extinguished the cigarette butt and his gaze was deep and eerie. I, the Supreme Overlord, want you all to beg me to come back. I will also let you know that there is no such thing as mercy in this world. With the caress of the large hand, the office began to distort and gradually turned into another scene. No one knew when the sofa had turned into a throne, but this was a throne piled up with skeletons. Among them were human skulls, huge orc skulls, rare elven skulls, and even dragon skulls. All the skulls were intertwined together, forming a terrifying and sinister throne. Right now, Yi Hua had already shed off his physical body and revealed his most primitive state. However, very quickly, a set of 7-colored divine light armor materialized on his body. The surrounding darkness was lit up by the divine light. Multicolored light lingered around the darkness, raging flames surged and rolled, and waves of overflowing aura seemed as if it was going to devour the entire world. Meanwhile, the palace that was illuminated by the rainbow divine light also revealed its original appearance. This was Yi Hua's former meeting hall. The long passageway was so dark that the end couldn't be seen. The floor was covered with a bright red carpet made from the bodies of young crystal dragons. This long tunnel had basically slaughtered the entire crystal dragon race. As for the huge pillar, it was the body of the ancient anaconda that had been placed there after it had been petrified. As for those innumerable pillars, it was unknown how many ancient giant pythons had died. The entire palace was built with all kinds of strange corpses. It exuded a cold and gloomy aura. If a normal person came here, they would definitely be scared to death. Because even if these divine beasts were dead, their power still remained. Yi Hua was sitting on the throne of skeletons, and his index finger was tapping on the skull of an elf. If he did not remember wrongly, this skull was the skull of an elf queen. Wei Chang. Ligu. Absolute heaven. Yizizi. Yi Hua shouted gravely. Hearing that his honor had summoned them with a different tone, the 7 deadly sins did not dare to be negligent in the slightest, and all of them rushed over. This time, his honor was no longer cleaning the toilet in the bar. Instead, his honor had returned to the royal palace. This caused the hearts of his honor's 4 subordinates to sink. This time his honor is truly angry. Subordinates, pay respect to your honor. The 7 deadly sins did not dare to be careless in the slightest as they respectfully greeted Yi Hua, who was seated on the throne. The evil aura that was being emitted out from Yi Hua's body unconsciously. Even though it was a god beast that had already died, Yi Hua still seemed to be afraid of Yi Hua. Your honor, please quell your anger. The 4 men hurriedly kneeled onto the ground. For his honor to be angry, it is definitely our fault. Yi Hua slowly said, I had thought that I would be able to enjoy my life for a few days, but it seems like it was still an extravagant hope. The 4 men remained silent. After a long while, Wei Chang said coldly, Shao family has to take full responsibility for this matter. If your honor allows it, subordinate will go and exterminate the entire Shao family right now and offer their heads to your honor. Yi Hua looked at Wei Chang, then said gravely, No. This time my target is not Shao family but Voidless Realm. The 7 deadly sins were startled, not understanding what his honor meant. Your honor, Madame Donghuang is the Empress of Voidless Realm, and your honor's target is Voidless Realm? Zhu Tian still didn't know what was going on and he was still puzzled. Lai Gu and Yi Zizi didn't say anything, fearing that they would say something wrong. Yi Hua snorted coldly. Zhu Tian immediately bowed down to express his apology. The 2 madams still don't know how deep the water in this world is. If that's the case, I will give them a good lesson. Yi Hua's tone was just like a cold spring from hell, causing one's hair to stand on end. Originally, I planned to let the North and South fight against each other, but after the South suffered disastrous losses, I have a new plan. The eyes of the 4 men lit up, especially Yi Zizi. Yi Hua said coldly, I want all of the powers in the North to attack Voidless Realm willingly. Lai Gu hurriedly said, Your honor, are we going to show off our acting skills on stage again? No. This time we will not move. The 4 men were immediately stupefied, not knowing what his honor was trying to do. I want to let them know a principle, no matter how good they are to anyone, for their own benefit. Benevolence is nothing. Zhu Tian understood what his honor meant. The 2 madams are definitely kind-hearted, and they angered his honor. Thus, his honor wants to teach the 2 madams a lesson and let them understand the truth of blood. Your honor, leave this matter to subordinate. Zhu Tian bowed down and said. He was willing to be the leader this time. With Zhu Tian being the leader, Yi Hua was rather at ease. Zhu Tian. Go ahead and do it, let them know what cruelty is. What betrayal is. What the human heart is. Subordinate understands. Zhu Tian decided that this time, he will definitely do it beautifully and make his honor satisfied. Yi Hua said faintly, Let's start with Shao family. I want Qingye to take the initiative to kill everyone in Shao family. Also, go and investigate the case of Dongfang family from 100 years ago. I want to see how many people they can protect. This time Yi Hua was being serious. Women cannot be spoiled too much. If I spoil them too much, they will go to heaven. This time Yi Hua's intention was very simple, but it was very difficult to carry it out. For example, if I want Qingye to take the initiative to slaughter Shao family, I will need a reason. This time, not only was this a lesson for the 2 wives, it was also a test for Yi Hua himself. Subordinate will obey your honor's command. Yi Hua slowly stood up then warned, don't treat them as your madams. Just do what you need to do, I will not allow them to throw a tantrum anymore. Yes. If they can't even pass such a small obstacle, they aren't worthy to be your madams. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared from the throne. After Yi Hua left, the four men looked at each other. In the past they were enemies and this time the enemies are indeed the two madams. Furthermore, to let the two madams have a taste of all kinds of things, the difficulty is not just a small one. I still have to go to school tomorrow, I will be going back to sleep. After speaking, Yi Zizi disappeared. Lai Gu let out a sigh. His honor is angry this time. That's right, this time the difficulty is even greater than acting. Wei Chang sighed. Zhu Tian's expression didn't have much fluctuation as he said indifferently, his honor's way of doing things is correct. The two madams' benevolence is the same as being cruel to themselves. After all, we don't need merciful madams. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.